For following people. We just didn't have that much come up that
You did
wasn't.
everything.
Hope I don't get a frog in my throat.
Boy.
We'll go ahead and begin and welcome to our fourth meeting of the 2020 calendar year. And this time we'll have our invocation, which will be led by Pastor Michaud, and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you that your word instructs us to acknowledge you in all our ways and to seek your wisdom in all things. Father, this is what we are doing this evening, thanking you for giving us your wisdom, and we receive it. We thank you for our city directors and for them giving of themselves to the business of our great city, Hot Springs. We ask for your blessings and protection on this city. Heavenly Father, we pray for the people of Nashville, Tennessee that were hit by these tornadoes, that you would bring comfort and healing to them. Also, we join together and pray for those who are affected by this coronavirus. We are looking to you that through your power that you will stop this evil going across the land. We pray for protection and healing from this virus, and that very quickly the vaccine would be available. Father, bless our great city of Hot Springs. Bless the families and homes, that they will have peace and health. Thank you for your angels that surround us and protect us. Father, bless our city and our nation to be a righteous nation, because your word says to all of us, righteousness exalts a nation, and sin will bring God's judgment upon any people. We pray this in the precious and holy name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Weatherford.
Here.
Garcia. Here. Folly.
Here.
Mayor McCabe.
Here. This time we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from consent agenda to new business?
I move
No.
approval of the agenda, Mayor.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor of the agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Now we'll consider approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of February 18th, 2020. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion from Director Clark, seconded by Director Weatherford. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have a number of guests here tonight, and I'd like to call forward to the podium Jennifer Hoyt, of Media Relations Manager of Oaklawn Park, and Jed Doro, Vice President of Racing. Please come forward. Excuse me. While they come forward, I'll read this proclamation from the City of Hot Springs. Whereas Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort will celebrate the 61st running of the $1 million Rebel Stakes on March 14, 2020. And whereas 26-year-old thoroughbred Shindy ran his first race the day after the Rebel Stakes in 1997, 23 years ago. And whereas Shindy went on to race a total of 81 times, including 24 times at Oaklawn, and achieved $1,838 in career earnings. And whereas Shindy, at age 26, still goes to the track every day and is a crowd favorite, serving as the unofficial equine ambassador of Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort. Whereas the sport of thoroughbred racing is proud to be represented by Shindy and other beautiful horses. Whereas the annual live race meet and corresponding infield activities at Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort are a unique occasion for thousands of families and friends to come together and enjoy this American pastime in our great city. And now therefore I, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the City of Hot Springs, do hereby proclaim Sunday, March 15th, 2020 as Shindy Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed on this third day of March in the year of our Lord 2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
Down the stretch he comes.
We're thankful for the Board of Directors for this opportunity, and we at Oaklawn are very proud of Shindy. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. This time we'll hear a report from Mr. Stephen Ezell, President of the Southwest Arkansas Partnership, and he'll provide an update on the homeless count that occurred last month.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Manager Bill Burrow, thank you for allowing me to talk to you and express what we've come with our count and the homeless count that we did on January 23rd. Today I provided to you a PowerPoint that I want to address. And first of all, I want to tell you that this count requires that we do this once a year on one specific day, 10 days prior to the end of the following year or the next year, which is January 2020. So we provided this on January 23rd of this year for the count for January, for the count of 2019. So it's always kind of in arrears, if you will, for that reason. So this count is inclusive to all those who are sheltered, unsheltered. We take the count any way we can. That includes, children as well, children that are in school, and the parents that are homeless as well. So what we did this year was something rather unique. And over the past, 6 years since I've been involved as a member, and now as the president, we've embarked on something that requires a little more advanced technology other than just a paper survey. So what we've done is that we've, after talking to Texarkana, Texas, who uses this software in their count, and it became extremely accurate in terms of duplication. So what we wanted to do was to avoid all that duplication, get a fast return, and get our numbers reported immediately to HUD. Last year, HUD provided an award that was, I think I want to make sure I get the number correctly. No, excuse me, for 2020, the HUD is going to be awarding nearly $2.2 billion to the local homeless program. So we're going to try to get a piece of the pie of that for this year to help work with all the agencies that are in this community who are dealing with the homeless population. So let me turn to you, ask you to turn to the, I'm going to call it page 2, which is the homeless count by 2018 and 2019. In 2018 was 326, and that's the unsheltered, and then 420. So we do have an uptick, severe uptick. And then the unsheltered youth, which is the youth that are under the age of 24. Last year we had, or 2018 was 145. This year we have 212, or at least 2018. But the number that really disturbs me the most is the schools. We saw a really good, downward tick in terms of what happened the previous year. The previous year we had 422, and the 2019 was 386. Think of those numbers in these terms. Those numbers mean that there is a parent or two parents involved, and you multiply those numbers by 2, you're looking pretty close to 1,000 people that are homeless, that are not counted. But that's a guesstimate in those numbers. So think of that in the school system. that we're looking at. Our veteran population is quite large, but you have to look at the veteran population as some don't disclose that they are veterans for whatever reason. But I got the number for 2019, and that number still remains at 7. The previous year was 9, so it's dropping down, but we would like to see that number even drop with the homeless count. The next page is the surrounding counties. Clark County had 6, and these are just under the McKinney-Vento Act, which is the homeless totals for students that are in school. Students that are homeless, there's in Clark County was 6, Montgomery County 53, Garland County 386, and Pike County is 94. Hot Spring County is 147, and Nevada County 87. So those numbers are very real numbers. These numbers we capture from the state education department or through the schools directly. So those numbers are very accurate to my knowledge. So now we are looking at those who are at risk. The at-risk population means that those people who are going to lose their home, those that are currently in a homeless situation and cannot get out of it. And then lastly is that you're looking at those who are potentially have got mental issues and have decided to stay within the city streets, and trying to get them the help that they need is going to be a challenge for this city to work on, is get those out of that situation that they're in and put them into some housing situation, if we can ever find a way to get transitional housing or rapid rehousing on the books at some point. And I would like the city to at least look at that possibility by helping out with looking for some real property, helping us with finding grants that will address the homeless issue that we're dealing with in our current situation. So that's where we are in our homeless point in time. I want to thank the city, most importantly, for being there for us this year. We partnered with Project Hope, and through Project Hope, they provided health resources. This has never been done. And so by doing that, we were able to get to some of those homeless, to get to those agencies and the resources that they needed. The transportation depot is the central location for homeless. But I will tell you, this year it was very, very crowded. We had a huge presence of the volunteerism. Our volunteerism compared to the past was usually between 28 and 33. This year we had a max of 43 volunteers in our homeless count. We have 11 camps that are out there that are homeless. Think about that. 11 camps. And just in Garland County, that we have been able to step foot into those communities. We call them communities because that is their home. That is their place of residency. So we try to at least accommodate them in whatever way we can, either providing tents, sleeping bags, food, bus passes, you name it, we do what we can to provide for those. So that's where we are in our count. And I asked the council to help consider this new year with the same resources, with police presence, with the transportation depot and its services that can provide. So Lance, I really thank you folks to help as well, to keep us going. And we ask the council to help provide this next year.
Well, thank you so much for your report. And
Yes, sir.
we appreciate all that you do and all the volunteers.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's give Stephen a round of applause. Thank you. We have one one other proclamation I want to read. The city of Hot Springs lost a longtime employee who had retired several years ago, but nonetheless was well thought of and loved by people who are still representatives of the city, and we have this proclamation to recognize his value to the city and our community at large. Whereas James Smiley Mattingly was born April 24th, 1956 in Hot Springs, Arkansas, to Julian Emanuel and Joyce McLean Mattingly. And whereas James was married to Patty Mattingly, he has 4 children. The second, Chris, Bo, Sarah, and 2 grandchildren, Haley and Cole. And whereas James was the third of 4 known generations to work for the City of Hot Springs Utilities, his grandfather, Father Julian, and James all retired from the city. Currently, all 3 of his sons work in the utilities department. James started with the city on June 2nd, 1974, and retired February 28, 2002. He worked for nearly 30 years, culminating with the title of Director of Utilities Operations. And whereas Manley knew utilities like the back of his hand, he could tell you where every sewer line, water line, manhole was located without a map. You could almost say the Manley family practically built the utility system. Whereas after leaving the city, Manley used his knowledge and skills of utilities to help many other cities across Arkansas. And whereas Manley served on the Garland County Fair and Livestock Association Board for more than 40 years, in which time he poured countless hours of work and dedication into making it what it is today. Manley played a significant role in the selling, buying, and relocating of the fairgrounds to the current site. The Garland County Fairgrounds is a premier facility that is envied by most in Arkansas. And whereas James was generous with his friendship, laughter, and presence, he could be intimidating on the outside with his large stature and crazy loud voice. But on the inside, he was a gentle soul, willing to help anyone regardless of status. And whereas Manley had an infectious smile, earning him the nickname Smiley, he had a loud and boisterous personality and always had stories that could make you laugh out loud. He would light up a room by making everyone laugh and enjoy life. And whereas the only thing greater than his smile was his love for his family, his friends, and his love of God, James Manley knew his place on earth was temporary. And if you were around him much at all, you would hear him say, "Heaven is my home, I'm just passing through here." Welcome home, James. Now, therefore, I, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the City of Hot Springs, do hereby proclaim March 3rd, 2020 as James Smiley Manley Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas. In witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause to seal the city to be affixed on this 3rd day of March in the year of our Lord 2020. So he will certainly be missed and was a great asset to our community.
Yes, sir. I had the pleasure of reading that at his service today, and, you know, it's hard to gauge. I know one side of that arena holds about 4,000 people, and it was almost full. So I think when they had another 250 chairs down below, and I would estimate that crowd somewhere 13, 14, 1,500 people. I mean, it was a fine day for James.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. This time we'll hear from our Mr. Burrow for the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that we've got a lot on the agenda tonight, so I'll be brief, but there are a few things I want to mention. First, we have a firefighter recruitment seminar from 6 to 8 p.m. on March 12th at the Central Fire Station at 310 Broadway. Men and women ages 20 to 34 who may be interested in an exciting, diversified, and challenging career with the most professional fire department in Arkansas are encouraged to attend. This seminar will cover job responsibilities, daily activities, and life around the firehouse. Testimonials from both veterans and rookies will give you the inside track on what a firefighter's life is really like. So if you have interest, March 12th from 6 to 8 at the Central Fire Station. I've had a few questions regarding the Cornerstone tank update. CB&I welding crew is almost finished with the accessories on top of the tank, which includes the access hatches, air vents, and a 40-foot diameter corral. The painting crew has come back to start on the finished painting coatings, both on the inside and outside of the tank. The mural, it will begin soon depending on the weather. The tank is scheduled to be filled and tested in April and hopefully coming online in May. So we'll be very happy to get that up and actually in operation. Want to say congratulations to our finance department and specifically Doretha Yates and Carrie Lookadoo. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to the City of Hot Springs by Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. This is the city's 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, also known as the CAFR. This certificate of achievement, which the city has earned 26 consecutive years, is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, representing a significant accomplishment by government and its management. A lot of hard work went into that by management staff, Doretha staff, and all of those that played a role in getting the information to them to put this report together. So we're very proud of that fact, and 26 years is a very good run. Double parking change downtown is being communicated. We provided a notice regarding the new resolution relating to the deliveries for distribution by the Downtown Business Group. We are also providing the notice and a letter to the various companies that deliver in the downtown area. And just as a reminder, double parking will be allowed between 6 a.m. and 11 a.m. only for deliveries. Outside that time frame, citations will be issued for double parking. The downtown area does have loading zones and are properly marked should they need to be used for loading or unloading goods outside of those permitted times. So we wanted to make sure that we're able to get that message out again. Finally, you'll have an item on your agenda tonight regarding street paving and the street paving list. And, I've had comments on streets. I've seen a couple of letters to the editor, a couple of posts. So, it's important to realize what goes into how we decide which streets are going to be paved. And I'll be the first to tell you that we need more paving dollars to really meet the needs that are out there, but that's not unlike any other community. A city government's responsibility are wide-ranging, to say the least, but one that is among the most visible is the condition of city streets. It is easy to understand why the state of our roads is important to our residents and visitors. It is certainly a priority for our city government. In fact, street and sidewalk infrastructure investment was highlighted as one of the 4 primary goals by the Board of Directors for 2020. And the wheels are in motion to accomplish that action item set forth by the board. City streets are rated and ranked for consideration in our annual paving program. Thanks to a collaborative effort between our engineering and public works departments, this important practice will soon be taken on to a new level. When complete, these departments will have access to a color-coded map of all city streets and sidewalks, precisely indicating the location and condition of any issues. Data Stream Pavement Management utilizes the latest video and mapping technology, and they'll incorporate our GIS mapping software to provide their detailed reports of the road conditions and sidewalk inventory. We don't have an inventory of sidewalks. That has always been part of the property owner's responsibility. However, we do see a need in several areas where sidewalks have breaks, where there's no sidewalk, or sidewalks that have become deteriorated. And so we will get our first sidewalk inventory through this project. One of the things that I like most about bringing in this technology and at least running our streets once is with that GIS overlay, they can pinpoint the exact location of a pothole, of a stress fracture, anything like that. So we'll know how to prioritize those going back. The current rating system that we use is a rate and ranking system that was developed in 1995. It is based on the formula used by the Arkansas Department of Transportation with a criteria that includes 10 weighted factors. I won't go into each of those, but each one of the criteria yields a value of 0 to 100. 0 representing excellent condition and 100 being in the worst possible condition. Streets are reviewed and ranked approximately every 5 years, and then on those off years, we're updating that list and going back and looking at the highest rated streets that had the worst conditions. The responsibility of the Board of Directors is to approve or modify that proposed paving list. The list considers a lot of things. One is the availability of the budget for paving, streets with the highest ranking values, planned or potential utility work. We have meetings once a month with all of the other utilities, whether that be electric, gas, broadband, whatever it may be, even our own utilities, water and wastewater departments, and they meet. we go over that paving list, and if there's any work planned within the next 2 years, we'll bypass that street and move it down the list. And we do that so we don't have to go back in and tear up a freshly paved road. Now, we've gotten off cycle on that, and we've met and have actually, our engineering department developed a new set of street repair regulations that was approved by this board. We started that in this past year, and now we're starting to see some of the results of that as we come back in and have to repair roads. Street district is taken in consideration, but it's on a lower priority. We try to go to the streets that need it the most, and then we have input from our board that they may receive from their constituents. As mentioned earlier, we understand our city's road conditions are so important to our residents. In today's information age, we are frequently reminded of citizen concerns, particularly involving our roads. We hope that outlining this detailed process of road management, including all the factors that come into play, as well as some of the proactive steps we're taking, will clear up any misheld complaints. Possibly the most common of these would be the reporting of concerns regarding roadways that are not under the city's jurisdiction, even though they're in our city. Just to mention some of those roads, there are a list of highways. We're very blessed in some ways to have all roads connecting here in Hot Springs, but it's also roads that we cannot modify or maintain. Albert Pike Road, Carpenter Dam Road, Central Avenue, Grand Avenue, Higdon Ferry Road, Malvern Avenue, Packus Street, portions of Section Line and TV Hill, Warner Street, Airport Road, Park Avenue, Summer, and parts of Hobson. That's a lot of streets that gets the majority of our traffic because they are the major arterials. And we do have a good relationship with RDOT, and as we receive complaints on any one of those particular highways, streets, then we get those over to the maintenance department of RDOT and try to work with them to make sure that those get addressed. We've got about $1.1 million in our budget this year, and it hovers around $1 million every year. About $820,000 of that comes from a half-cent sales tax on fuel that potentially will be expiring soon. We need those dollars, and we'll continue to try to advocate for that. But that's my report, Mayor. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Very, very detailed. At this time, we'll entertain announcements from directors of upcoming events. Any director have an upcoming event? Director Garcia.
I would just like to announce to the public that the Single Parent Scholarship Fund Committee is hosting a style show at the Hot Springs Country Club on March 12th at 11:30, and all proceeds go to scholarships for single parents to continue education in Garland County. So if anyone is interested, tickets are still available from the committee, and you can also buy tickets online from the Garland County Single Parent Scholarship Fund Committee.
Any other announcements?
No, man, not tonight.
Director Weatherford.
I just want to remind the public of next Tuesday, we have the first ever 17th annual world's shortest St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yes.
We have always have 40 participants, and one of those being the International Order of the Marching Elvi, which I've been a member for 15 years. Some good entertainment this year with Blues Traveler and Fog Hat. So everybody come on downtown and have a good time.
Very good.
Thank you.
For those of you who have not voted, you have 2 minutes. If you're near a polling place, get in line. You'll probably let you in. I'm sorry, I was going to announce that earlier. But, Pastor Michaud, in his prayer, addressed the coronavirus and those who are impacted by that. Hand washing goes a long ways. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Tell your children to wash their hands. And my staff, when I'm in meetings at work, they see me like this all the time, and they say, Pat, you got to keep your hands away from your face. And so that's going to be one of my challenges here.
Give that up for Lent.
I was thinking about that before you mentioned it, but yeah, and so hand washing goes a long ways, and keep your hands away from your face. So, thank you. Anyone else? This time we'll go into the consent agenda, and these are of routine nature and do not merit discussion. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved, Mayor.
I got a motion by Director Foley, seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor of the consent agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. As I indicated earlier, this is the fourth meeting of the City Board of Directors of 2020, and you are all welcome guests to our board meetings. We're very interested in the input and the perspective that you bring to the agenda items. We have a number of items here tonight that merits significant discussion, and certainly we would like to have a room full of citizens at every board meeting. But tonight we have two items, a minimum of two items that have resulted in people coming out, and so that's great. We want to hear from each and every one of you. We do provide for 3 minutes for each individual to come up to the podium and speak. And if everything has been said within your speech by the time you're called, you can indicate and stand up from your place and say, my comments were already made. If you have a group, a few people that are speaking on behalf of a group, remember 3 minutes each, but you are being supported by a number of people in the audience, they can stand up during the time of your speech, or at the end I'll indicate, for those of you who are supporting this individual's comments, you can rise. But please recognize that we're going to try to move through this in an appropriate time frame, not a fast-paced time frame, but at the same time, if you can withhold applause and allow people to move about and assist them in getting to the podium, that would be great, because I know some speakers may be in the middle won't be on an aisle chair, and they'll take some time getting to the front. So with that, we'll go ahead and begin. Our first resolution is R 2026, and I ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 2026, a resolution approving the 2020 annual street paving program. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved, Mayor.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. And our staff report will be provided by Mr. Denny McFate, Director of Public Works. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This proposed paving program includes paving, milling, and preparation for the attached list of streets that is in the list is in your packet. A list of alternate streets is also included in the packet. In the event of a street on the paving program is unavailable to be paved due to unforeseen circumstances, if there's some kind of utility conflict that comes in at the last hour, like we have a water main break or something like that. And if actual costs come in less than estimates, we will roll over to our alternate list. The total cost of all the streets on the alternate list is more than available funds. However, we will monitor actual costs as the work progresses and will not exceed our budget limits. The 2020 budget for the street paving program is in the amount of $1.1 million and is in the street accounts, 229 account, and also the 230 street accounts on street repairs, street maintenance. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. McFate? Director Clark.
Is this list on the city website, the list of the streets?
We can put it there. It is on the Board of Directors site for the meeting. If they wanted to drill down to it, they could find that, but we'd be glad to put an additional link on there for the streets.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Director Foley?
I do have a question. I'm embarrassed to say that Maplewood subdivision, which is in my district, I thought was paved last year.
Maplewood?
Maplewood, that's off of Shady Grove Road. Yeah.
Yes, it's a street that's all concrete streets.
Right.
We're doing that with our street personnel, and with the material money is coming out of the paving program, so we're not paving it. We're actually tearing up the existing concrete streets and replacing them one section at a time, and we're doing that in phases. And we started that last year, and we're going to continue doing that this year until we can get the worst sections of that subdivision repaired. It wouldn't behoove us to come in and pave over that concrete streets, because after about 3 years, all the broken lines and stuff show through the asphalt, and then water and freezing can take effect in it. So to be more cost effective and get another 40 years out of those streets, we're just going to go back with concrete.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of Mr. McFate? Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Garcia.
Pardon?
Director Garcia.
Oh, Director Garcia?
Yeah, I don't know that it's really a question. The city manager did a great job of explaining this process, but I don't know if you mentioned that if some of the streets that weren't included on the list that are due to paved, if they were going to have gas lines replaced or something like that, were held off, but we adopted a new process that if that continued for 2 years and they still did not replace those lines, that they would go back on the paving list. Is that correct?
That is correct.
This would be the second year.
That is correct. In the past, we have seen some streets that were needing paving that through these utility coordination meetings, we would get the list of what had planned to be done, and then 3 years later, it still hadn't been accomplished, and we'd get that list again. So we've met with all of our utilities and said, look, we understand that you have to replace them, and we're very glad they're replacing their lines. CenterPoint Energy is replacing almost every gas line in the city of Hot Springs, which is a great thing for our residents, but it does impact our streets. So through that, in this process, as well as the new repair regulations that we have, we have set a 2-year limit. If it's on that paving process and it's pulled off because of planned utility work, if that utility work isn't completed within 2 years, it's going back onto the paving plan. We're going to pave those streets, and unfortunately, they'll have to deal with the more rigorous repairs that we have in place now.
So would this be the second year if they were taken off last year and not on there this year?
We just started that this year, so they are understanding of it.
Okay.
So if you have some particular streets that you want us to take a look at that were on there that came off due to that reason, certainly let me know that, and we'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
Ms. Marcy, did we have anyone sign up to speak on this issue?
No, sir.
Okay. Any further discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Holliday. Aye. Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R2027 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R2027, a resolution authorizing the purchase of certain vehicles pursuant to the State of Arkansas Cooperative Purchasing Program. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark.
Second.
Second by Director Jones. And our staff report will be provided by Fleet Director Greg Spees. Welcome.
Thank you, Mary. Mayor, members of the board, this is the resolution of our annual purchase of state contracts vehicles. Arkansas law and the City of Hot Springs ordinance permit the purchase of vehicles through a contract administered by the state. At this time, there are 24 vehicles that need to be purchased in this manner. The vehicles are all budgeted in the 2020 budget approved by the Board of Directors in November 2029. The total purchase price of these vehicles is $701,492, spread over about 12 different accounts. And you have attachments in your board packet for every vehicle that we're going to order and who they're going to. I'll take any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Spees?
Mayor, I think it's important to note that about $400,000 of this particular purchase, $392,000, is for our public safety, with over half just in our police vehicles alone.
Mm-hmm. Any Any further questions? If not, we have anyone sign up from the public?
No, sir.
No? Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R 2028 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 2028, a resolution approving conditional use expansion for New Life Church, 300 Packus Street, onto 2 adjacent lots to be used as a family park, 0.92 acres, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Holliday, thank you. And Director Weatherford. And our staff report will be provided by Planning and Development Director Kathy Selman.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. The appellant on this item is Tony Hill, representing property owner and applicant New Life Church. He's seeking board action to overturn Planning Commission's February 13, 2020, 4-5 vote on the church's request to expand their conditional use permit to encompass 2 adjacent residential lots. Commissioner Gosley's finding was that the proposed plan was not compatible with the surrounding area. Commissioners Smith, White, Thompson, and Koppel stated public health, safety, and welfare as their reason. The site is approximately 0.92 acres. It's at the corner of Thornhill Street and Marwinet Place, south of Packus Street and the existing New Life Church. Surrounding land use and zoning consists of primarily residential development. R2 suburban residential is the zoning. The proposed park includes gated entry from Thornhill Street for maintenance access to the park. The development includes a proposed 150 feet long, 5 foot wide biofiltration swale close to the northeast boundary of the subject property. The applicant proposes ADA access ramps and a sidewalk leading from the existing facilities of New Life Church to the entryway on Thornhill Street and an internal 5-foot sidewalk path lining all borders of the property. There would be a proposed 6-foot chain link fence along the west and south borders and a 6-foot wooden privacy fence along the east property boundary. A proposed 40-foot by 60-foot pavilion with utilities is positioned near the Thornhill Street entry along the northwest corner of the property. To the south is a playground equipment area, and lighting, as detailed in the application packet, demonstrate that they are fully downcast, full cutoff fixtures to maintain the light on the subject property without trespass onto adjacent properties. This original request that went to Planning Commission was for conditional use approval. Hot Springs Code, Section 16270, says that a conditional use is a use that conforms to the intent of the comprehensive plan for a specific area and is generally allowable. The use may represent potential problems, however, with respect to its impact on neighboring property or to the city as a whole. For this reason, it requires careful review of its location, design, configuration, and spatial impact to determine the desirability of allowing it on a particular site. The appeal is required to address 4 specific items. Summary of Planning Commission action, reasons for the appeal. The reasons a reversal will better serve the health, safety, welfare, and morals, and any new and pertinent information since the Planning Commission's action, if there is any of that. The staff report and findings or recommendation stated that Hot Springs Code requirements were met if approved with 7 detailed conditions. Planning Commission did ask neighborhood speakers for additional conditions, but none were forthcoming. The proposed use is conditional in an R2 suburban residential zone district according to the Hot Springs Code Table of Uses. Conditional use approval requires public notice and Planning Commission approval of the application upon careful evaluation of the impacts to the neighborhood and the city by the Planning Commission and a weighing of conditions and methods proposed by the Commission or by the applicant to ameliorate those impacts. In his appeal, the applicant offered 3 new strategies to mitigate impacts that were identified by persons testifying at Planning Commission's hearing. And those 3 items have been added to the resolution that is before you this evening as conditions 8, 9, and 10. Those conditions are a locking trash enclosure, the applicant to monitor trash and maintain the area, a monitoring schedule by New Life Church to watch for transients and transient activity, and a locking gate will be present to allow limited access if needed. The resolution that is before you tonight is written in the affirmative, as is your policy, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Director Foley?
Director Selman, is it normal for an appellant to be able to create new conditions upon which a resolution is formed after the fact?
I don't know what's normal in an appeal because appeals are so particular to a specific site and a specific set of facts. It's not unprecedented.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Director Weatherford?
Can you go back to the first part of your, about the drainage? You said there was what was the footage of that drainage that you were talking about?
The swale?
Yes.
That is 150 feet long, 5 feet wide.
And where was it to be located?
That is close to the northeast boundary of the property.
Okay.
The area in the blue, the property in the blue on that, that's where it is? It's right next to the church.
Yes.
North and east. Yes. Mhm. And to the, yes, primarily.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Director Holliday?
About the intent of the conditional use in this, if you're able to answer, it says park and playground / public. Does that mean that it has to be public in order to be considered conditional, or is just, I was curious about the language of the...
No, it does not have to be public to be considered.
Okay.
I guess I'll hand over. Director Weatherford?
I drove out there and drove around the property and got out and walked the property. And, of course, I was informed after I got this drawing from downstairs that the 15-inch line that they were going to put in, which actually they had it drawn in to come from one of their, better word, sloughs. It comes from the parking lot. There are 2 of them. The curb catches the back part of the parking lot and the street takes the water to this lot. And they have changed it and to catch it in an area halfway down that blue line and come out. But the drawings here says that the ends would be taken care of with riprap. There was no riprap. There's a large area in the back where sediment is coming off the project and into the drainage that goes across the street to the lot that's marked 48398. And to me, it appears that, I mean, they could flood that lot with the water that they're now dumping from their parking lot in the street behind the church to this lot, to this next lot.
Yeah, the property at this time is under an excavation permit from the city, which is still open. Work has not been completed. The design that was proposed has been evaluated by the city engineer and found adequate.
Well, the original deal was just a grassy playground area. Now they've come back and added all this other stuff. I mean, that was what the original permit was for, as I understood. This morning downstairs, talking to Pat Watson, that this was they had originally came in and said we're going to clear it off, take the trees out of there, cover up the concrete that's there. We're going to put dirt and we're going to seed this and make it a grassy area. Now it's a playground.
Right. This application is what was reviewed by staff, and I am not aware of the fine points of that excavation permit.
Yeah.
Correct.
Point of order. Director Weatherford, I thought I made it pretty clear you weren't supposed to be having ex parte communication about this. The evidence that you were to hear was supposed to be in this hearing. So I'm going to ask that you recuse.
Okay.
Which means if you're not abstain, recuse, which means you have to leave the room.
Director Garcia, you had a question?
Yes. Looking at this, I know previously there has been significant drainage issues with water coming down all the way to Marinette Place there. And I had concerns about additional flooding coming down from there. But where there's sidewalks and everything are going to be, is there parking, concrete parking added too?
There is not. Parking would be in the existing parking area.
So no additional, but there is some additional concrete.
There is the sidewalks and some of the platform areas for activity, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of Ms. Selman? Director Holliday?
And I don't know if you can share this, and it was a little bit in the report, but you had said that several of the commissioners talked about health and safety, and the specific points that they brought up with these three new conditions, were those each addressed, or are there other things that maybe we aren't aware of that are health and safety concerns here?
The statement by those four commissioners was exactly that, public health and safety. I have no further detail on what they may have been thinking.
Okay.
Director Foley?
Director Selman, what is the surface, when this project is finished, what is the surface area going to look like? Not the pavilion. The pavilion is actually like laying down asphalt. Because that water that hits is going to run off to the property. But what is this? What is the ground going to look like? Is it grass? Is it gravel? Is it concrete? What is it supposed to be?
That is a lawn area. Those areas which are not under roof for the pavilion are identified as constructed lawn area.
Okay, thank you.
Director Selman, could you, for the benefit of the board and the public that's here listening, describe to us the process that the departments go through with the Developmental Review Committee? Which departments look at this? Were there any comments? What was the recommendation of the committee? And what was the staff's recommendation to the Planning Commission?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. There is an extensive review process that occurs before an application makes it to a Planning Commission agenda. Any city department that has regulatory authority has the responsibility of evaluating every application that comes in for compliance with those areas of the code that they enforce. So we have the fire department, city engineer, public works, solid waste, utilities, planning, and a variety of others depending on if they're in the county rather than in the city. But any city department who has regulatory authority is going to look at this project and provide detailed comments. That's at the meeting that is known as Development Review Committee. The comments that come from that committee meeting are given in person to the applicant and or the applicant's representative so that they can make changes to their plan to assure that the plan is compliant with all of the applicable codes, whether they be Hot Springs codes or state or even federal codes in some circumstances. The applicant has approximately 10 days to get a revised plan back. That is then reviewed again by those same departments and agencies for compliance, and only at that time can it be forwarded to an agenda for Planning Commission approval. If the plan as proposed has the possibility of needing more specific guidance than what is generally in the code, then a condition is applied to that project. The condition becomes regulatory as well. And all of that information goes to Planning Commission before they make a decision.
Thank you, very detailed. Director Foley.
I have another question, and that is, does the existing property, the church, without the extra lot, does that have a drainage problem, right, a runoff problem right now?
I'm unable to answer that. I am not aware of one.
Okay.
But I'm also not the drainage specialist either.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I know you'll stand by. And we have a number of individuals who have signed up to speak on. Pardon?
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to explain for the benefit of those that are here this evening interested in this issue. This appeal is for a conditional use application, which the Arkansas Supreme Court has deemed to be a quasi-judicial proceeding, as opposed to a rezoning, which is a legislative act. And so anytime we deal with a quasi-judicial matter, which are very rare because we don't see these very often, it prohibits any ex parte communication on the behalf of the tribunal. This board is sitting tonight on this particular matter as a quasi-judicial tribunal. And so they, in essence, need to act as judges. That means not have conversations with you all throughout the week. And I know that, some of you may have called, may have emailed, and maybe those calls or emails didn't get returned. That's why they were instructed not to have any ex parte communication with you or to do any of their own independent investigation. The evidence that they will make their determination on will be heard tonight, or if the matter is continued at some subsequent meeting, but not outside of the confines of this chamber. And so that's why when Director Weatherford revealed that he had discussions, I asked him to politely recuse, and he agreed to do so. Just wanted to make that clear to everyone.
Thank you. We have a number of individuals who have signed up to speak on this issue, both in the for and against. And just want to remind everyone that it is 3 minutes, and we would like to refrain from any inappropriate comments during the individual's presentation or after their presentation. And historically, when we've had groups like this, I'd have a couple extra free chairs up front, and I'd call 2 or 3 up at a time. But we don't have that today, so we'll move through this, and everyone's comments are appreciated and are important. And but then again, if your comments have already been made, please acknowledge that, and we'll move to the next speaker. First, on the for side is Mr. Tony Hill. Can you come forward, please? Thank you. And you have 3 minutes. Just can't stress that enough.
Mayor, thank you, and thank you to the board for hearing us this evening. Our appeal. I just wanted to thank the Planning Commission also for hearing our conditional use application last month. Special thank to Commissioner DeZont, Hobby, Walker, and Baker for their support. I'd also like to thank the City of Hot Springs for their help through the process, Pat Watson, Rick Stoddard, and Director Selman. And I'd also like to nominate them for a Hero Award. I seen that slide come across earlier, and if I may do that, I'd say they need to be nominated for that. Our request for an approval for a conditional use amendment is to simply have a park for our kids, to have a place to play. We received overwhelming support from our church on this project. We're so blessed this evening to have so many here with us in attendance tonight. After clearing the overgrown lot, improving the low-lying areas, and improving the drainage, we realized the potential this lot had and what it could provide for our members. We hired Daniel George, who is here this evening, from BNF Engineering, and he's guided us through this process all the way and as well. We have met all the code requirements by the city for our conditional use permit. The city went on to say that the development plan that was submitted is unlikely to pose negative impacts on surrounding land uses. The City of Hot Springs Planning report indicates the requirements for conditional use permit have been met, and staff recommendation was approval. We are thankful for our location. We desire to be the best neighbor we can be. We have invested this past year in improving the conditions of our building, signing, lighting, and parking lot. We're very proud of our campus. We enjoy seeing children from our neighborhood riding their bikes on our lot like they did this past Saturday. We appreciate the kind card sent to us by a neighbor, Mrs. Batterton, thanking us for putting up a privacy fence this past year. Also, she commented to one of our members on Monday how well we keep the trash picked up. Unfortunately, we have not enjoyed having to abandon a neighbor from our property by the advisement of the Hot Springs Police Department for making harassing phone calls, creating security concerns by disrupting service, or yelling at a young female volunteer as she got out of her car to come serve at our church this past Sunday morning. We also would appreciate if the negative signs that were placed adjacent to our property this past Sunday did not continue. These actions will not improve the relations in our neighborhood. We want to be a good neighbor and will continue to strive to do just that. The reason for the denial by the Planning Commissioners was to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Nothing was listed in the minutes on the specifics of these concerns by the Commissioners. Again, we met all standards set forth in the Hot Springs Code for the conditional use. Also, at our church and organization, we set a very high bar when it comes to public health, safety, and welfare. Our track record would support that. For every service or event that we have at our church, we have a uniformed officer present. We employ officers from the Hot Springs Police Department and the Garland County Sheriff's Office to assist us in protecting public health, safety, and welfare. This also provides assistance with traffic flow for our church and through traffic on Paca Street. We also went to 3 services this last fall of this last year to improve traffic flow.
Mr. Hill, your time is up. Can you just provide a concluding comment?
I'll be glad to.
And then we may ask a few questions of you.
Absolutely. I'll just say that our hope is to be a blessing to this community. For us, we know this starts at our church, and we want this to be in our neighborhood as well. We want to continue to add value to this neighborhood. Our kids are our most important asset we have. These kids will be the leaders in our community someday. What better place for our kids to be than at church? Our park is going to give them that option.
Okay. Any questions of directors of Mr. Hill? Yeah, Director Garcia.
Thank you, Pastor Tony.
Yes, ma'am.
When y'all met with the neighbors in this neighborhood, was there not any discussion on any compromises that y'all could reach to, take care of any concerns in the neighborhood?
Well, the concerns have been brought to our attention. We've tried to address each and every one of those. Privacy fence was one of them. There were some other things that have been brought to our attention, and we've tried to address those.
Did you have a meeting and invite them and show them your plans and go over?
No, ma'am. A meeting with everyone, no. We've tried to meet with our neighbors individually, but not a meeting as a group.
Oh, so before applying at the Planning Commission, there wasn't any meeting at the church inviting the neighborhood in to go over your proposal or anything?
No, ma'am.
Oh, because y'all might could have reached a compromise or something. I didn't know y'all hadn't even discussed it.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions of Mr. Hill? Mr. Hill, how long has the church been there?
As New Life Church, we've been there, I guess, 7-8 years now. It was a church previous to ours. I don't know how long it had been there prior to us being there,
Okay.
but we purchased it from an existing church.
And what's the size of your membership?
Our average attendance is around 1,000 on a weekend.
Director Garcia?
Were you there when the parking lot was expanded and added on the east side?
Just as a member, not in this role.
Oh, what was there some issues with the stormwater runoff after that parking lot went in?
Not that I'm aware of.
None that you're aware of?
I'm aware of, no, ma'am. I was not in this role at that time.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? Mr. Hill, just for the record, I failed to ask you what your home address was and what district you're in.
District 5, and I'm at 651 Red Oak Cutoff is my home address.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next is Mr. Jimmy Crane. Mr. Crane?
I'm just here in support. I don't need to.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Justin Nicholas? Please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Justin Nicholas, 120 Wright Street. I believe it's District 5. I just want to express my gratitude to New Life Church for bringing this. What an asset it will be to children, youth, and families of Hot Springs. And it'll be a great, safe place for them to come and enjoy.
Thank you. Mr. David Nash. Mr. Nash. Okay, thank you, Mr. Nash. Mr. Brandon Sessions. Thank you. Mr. I think it's Trey Lindsay.
Yes, sir. We support New Life Church.
Okay, thank you. Daniel George, Mr. Daniel George. Please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Daniel George, B&F Engineering, 928 Airport Road. I'm not sure exactly what district we're in out there on Airport Road, but Daniel George, professional engineer with B&F Engineering. We've been assisting the church with the engineering related to the development, and so I think Director Selman did a good job in summarizing the conditional use process, and that all those items were met with the conditions that we had to make that development coincide well with the residential nature of that neighborhood. The lot was pretty heavily overgrown before they started. Few mature trees, a lot of underbrush, and there was concrete debris that I believe was left from when Cornerstone was built. So the church has cleaned up all that underbrush and crushed the concrete, used it as fill material, and leveled that lot, and so made it useful space for them. And so as far as the stormwater, we've done all the measures required by the city code, and that biofiltration swell that was mentioned intercepts runoff from the existing parking lot and reduces the runoff from the new park area to level below pre-development. So be happy to answer any questions you guys have related to the technical nature of the development.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms.?
Did we require that? Did we require his bioswell?
I don't know.
Mr. George, did we require the bioswell, or was that in your original plan, or was that one that came out as a condition requirement by the code?
One of the things we discussed in the Development Review Committee was meeting the code requirement of the post-development stormwater runoff has to equal or less than pre-development runoff. And so the measure we implemented here was this biofiltration swell, because it will contain quantity and also provides a quality of, it intercepts the two swells that run off of the existing parking lot. And so any any debris or trash that comes off of the parking lot would be in that swell, and the church can go through and clean that so it doesn't enter the storm system and ultimately the lake.
Director Garcia?
Were you aware of any previous drainage issues from previous work?
Not of any development unrelated that the church has done unrelated to this park area. Down on the southern end of the park near the street, it was, before we started, there was signs of, it didn't drain well down there along the ditch. And so we've taken this lot that was, it had some terrain to it, and so we flattened it and made it a grassed area. So we've reduced the runoff in that nature, as well as the stormwater control measures.
Reduced it. Is it adequate drainage now, or are you aware of any problems still going down into the yards and up to houses that behind there?
Not that I'm aware of.
And this lot is a part of the homeowners association and in the Broadmoor subdivision. Is
The
that
lots
right?
are part of Broadmoor subdivision, yes.
Mr. George, we had started firing questions at you, and I'm not certain that your prepared remarks were concluded. Did you have other remarks?
That was it. Like I
Okay.
said, any technical questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Corey Cangelosi.
Could I ask a question?
Close. Well, I didn't expect to hit it, but at least you're working with me.
Director Foley has a question.
Oh, Director Foley.
Somebody mentioned a POA, these two lots being a part of the POA, and I realize that that's a civil contract that property owners have with each other in a subdivision. Are we in the middle of a situation where a relationship that grants them a different kind of development than the subdivision? I can't remember what the term is, but if that agreement that they have, are we in the middle of granting something or legally getting in between something that's already agreed to in a civil contract?
I'll try to address that for you, Director. And first of all, let's talk a little bit semantics. I've heard homeowners association, POA. To my knowledge, there's not a POA or a homeowners association.
Okay.
There is a
question's
bill of
gone.
assurance
Yeah.
that was filed in 1963 and then corrected by way of legal description only in 1964.
Okay.
And that has been intact since then without amendment.
And so it doesn't matter to us what those restrictions are on the.
That is correct. That is a civil issue. And the courts refer to it as a contractual obligation by the developer and the subsequent property owners to enforce that amongst themselves.
Okay, so we're not getting in the middle of that contractual obligation.
Their remedy for any perceived or alleged violation of the Bill of Assurances would be in court.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Your time has just expired. I'm sorry. Welcome, and please restate your name so we can pronounce it correctly. And then and your address, please, and district.
Thank you. Corey Cangelosi. It's Italian, but we're not from here. But we do love Hot Springs. I've been here 7 years, and our church has been here about 8.5. And we love our community. We love the city. Appreciate everybody here and your service to help make this a good place for my kids and our church family. And we want to be a blessing to the city, to the county, to our state, and especially to our neighborhood. We're trying to make a considerable investment financially and hopefully visually as well to our neighborhood and to our community. I mean, this would be a big investment that we're taking on financially for us, and we have the support. We also want this to be a blessing. Just today, I had a conversation with Bill Gardner, who works for the city, as he was having lunch in his car in our parking lot. And he just said he enjoyed having a quiet space to sit and eat lunch. And I said, well, that's great. We want you to be able to park here anytime, have lunch in our parking lot. It's shaded. There's a lot of shade there. And that happens a lot. We have different employees and people from our city come. And so this could be a blessing to Bill as well, and those that want to come have lunch in a park. But especially our first priority, like Tony said, is our kids. It's this next generation. It's our youth, our teenagers. We want a place for them to be able to come on a Friday night, because we could think of much worse places to spend a Friday evening than at a church park and enjoying company of other church members. And so that's our hope, is to do this. We've tried to go about it as best as possible. And one concern, and you kind of answered this a little bit, Mr. Albright, is about the bill of assurance, because that seemed to be something that was discussed quite a bit in the Planning Commission meeting, which seemed to be outside the purview of that committee, but it seemed to be taken into consideration nonetheless. And so my question, just for the board, is if that's going to be taken into consideration tonight. But it sounds like you just answered that question, that it can't be, and because that is something that was a little bit confusing to us at the meeting 3 weeks ago when we sat before you and presented this plan to the Planning Commission. But overall, I just want you to know our heart is to address the concerns as best we can of garbage, of transients, of lighting. We feel like we're as best stewards as possible of that property, and we've been able to make some improvements to that property since we bought it. Tony was incorrect. We didn't buy it from the previous church. It was foreclosed and sat vacant for several years, and so we bought it from the bank. And so we've tried to make as many improvements inside and out as possible, and it's been something that we take a lot of pride in, keeping it up, keeping it clean. We have cameras all over that property, and so it's surveilled 24/7. And if there's any transients or anybody passing by, any kind of issues, we have that, and we do keep track of that. So hopefully that addresses some of the concerns. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions of Corey?
Just for clarification, when I read the minutes of the Planning Commission, Ms. Selman advised the members of the commission that the bill of assurance was not part of the discussion and should not be considered. And the subsequent conversation that took place, at least it avoided any discussion of a bill of assurance when they made their final determination. So, I don't know what's on the minds of people, but they seem to have avoided that once she advised them of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Names aren't getting any easier.
Ellen,
Susan Neri Garter. How bad did I do that? We don't have a Susan?
Yeah.
Is there?
I've been not after you missed that.
Okay.
Anyone
Well,
outside?
thank you. All right. Well, Susan must have left. Jeff Etheridge. Okay. Thank you. Joshua Lacey. Thank you. Doug Westgate. Please come forward and restate your name, address, and district number.
Doug Westgate, 105 Portia Terrace in Hot Springs. I'm honestly not sure what district number I'm in, so I'm in the county. But I've been in this city for 46 years. I am a father of a blended family of 9 children, 2 of them that we adopted from Guatemala. So nobody knows the need for a facility like this is more than I do. The kids need a place that they can go that is tobacco-free, that's drug-free, that is alcohol-free, that they don't have the peer pressure to go the other places that they would go because there's not a place like this. It is going to be secure. It's going to be fenced. As a member of New Life Church, I've seen New Life Church grow. We're 18 campuses across the state now, and with pooled resources, they have the resources to do things the right way. Their philosophy and their approach on everything is don't do anything unless you can do it with excellence. And I know that this project will be done with excellence. with the help of BNF Engineering and with the city looking it over, it will be done the right way. And I can just say that as an active member of New Life Church on the hospitality team, on the missions team, and on the security team, we have ample trained volunteers and staff to secure that property, to make sure that the people that are utilizing that property are safe while they're there, to keep it policed, to keep it patrolled. As Tony mentioned, we always have a uniformed officer, whether he's a deputy sheriff or one of the Hot Springs finest. We always have one there, and they do a great job, and they've got our full support. It's just one of those situations where I'm also a licensed real estate agent, and not only do I work in Garland County as a licensed real estate agent because I'm an auctioneer, I work the entire state, and I can tell you that when there is a park like this in an immediate area, the properties immediately surrounding that, their property values are going to increase. And when they try to sell their property, it is going to sell faster because of this park. It is not going to be a deterrent to somebody. And I will say that this property, the kids in the church are excited about it. The adults in the church are excited about it. The college-age kids that come up from OBU and Henderson are excited about it. This is going to be a property that is utilized a lot. And because of that, that will stop the transient population from wanting to be there because they don't want to be disturbed. They want to be off the beaten path. They want to be undiscovered. They want to have a place where they can leave their few possessions, and thieves and criminals are the same way. They don't like activity. And so a place that is well lit, that is secured with a fence, that is patrolled, and that is family oriented is not where they want to be. So,
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Any questions of Mr. Westgate? Director Garcia?
Will the neighborhood have access to the park?
Absolutely.
And just a clarification, aren't all the city parks tobacco-free? I didn't want to leave some comments that made it sound like our city parks aren't safe or don't have, that aren't tobacco-free, but it was my understanding they are.
All of our parks are tobacco-free, drug-free. They close at 10 p.m. For the most part. However, they're open parks, with the exception of Entergy where we gate that. But that is correct. We do have that policy in place.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. Our final speaker on the floor side is Mr. Landon Trusty. Is Mr. Trusty? He was here earlier. Okay, we'll go to the other side of the ledger here. For those speaking against, Mr. Jeff Batterton, come forward and restate your name and what district you're in.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Jeff Batterton, and I live at 109 Marronette Place. In 1998, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use for a church facility on Packus Road. A church was built on the 1.75-acre tract of land that was not designated as residential on the plat of Broadmoor subdivision. 45 lots were designated as residential lots, and a bill of assurance written in 1963 covers those 45 lots. It states that they will be used for private residences only. We've already touched on that, so let me skip what I was going to say about that. Let's see. In the appeal, they state, per Hot Springs Code 16-2-152, the table of permitted uses, park or playground, public, is a conditional use subject to Planning Commission approval in Zone District R2. If you'll take a moment to look at the table of permitted uses that I've given you on the next line, you'll note that a parking lot is not a conditional use. I also handed out a copy of page 6 of the project brief, which is the planning staff report. Their staff recommendation is approve the conditional use permit request to develop a parking lot at the subject property, not a park or playground. The church is overflowing every Sunday and the parking lots are packed. They obviously need more parking. Why else would you go to the expense of clearing a wooded lot and leveling it with hundreds of loads of dirt and concrete to create something you already have? They had already turned residential lot 45 of our subdivision into a green space. They had many outside activities there for the congregation, and a part of it that wasn't later covered with gravel for more parking still exists. Surely they could put their volleyball nets there. Nearby are picnic tables under pines. As far as the playground equipment, they already have a playground beside the church. Visitors would not need to intrude into the neighborhood to the south side of a blind hill, creating a safety hazard to reach these areas, and the parking is already available. I grew up on Marwinet Place. We played in the woods or along the creek. One of the reasons I jumped at the chance to move back to this neighborhood when I could was the peace and quiet, the woods and the wildlife. Since the church came, all that has changed. The stress this has caused is tremendous. I don't want to walk out of my front porch and look out at a playground or family park. No privacy fence would be tall enough to obscure it. I don't want to listen to children scream and play while their parents shout at them. There is a reason we bought property that was in a country setting that was covered with trees. There's a reason we bought property with a bill of assurance that would protect our neighborhood from encroachment by anything other than a residence. A family park would offer the same intrusion as a commercial venture: people, traffic, and noise. Then the congregation will all return to enjoy their quiet neighborhoods. Perhaps it's time we consider the health, safety, and welfare of the residents who live in the neighborhood. And I'd also like to say that I was the one responsible for the negative signs. The signs said, "No park," WWJD, and "Heart your neighbor, not just your congregation." Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Batterton? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. David Falsetti? Please restate your name, address, and district number, please.
My name is David Falsetti. I live at 103 Marquette Place, and District 5 is my district. I just want to go over some things he already said. Basically, the lots on the east end of their property were supposed to be, they were cleared without even getting any kind of permit to do anything with them. They basically turned it into a parking lot. It floods Miss Batterton's house or backyard. They have a playground on the north side of the church right now. It says New Life Church Playground over there. In my opinion, I don't think they're going to do anything but just make it into a parking lot down there. I mean, that's why it was written up. It says on here there's going to be a playground or a green area, but if you look, like you said, on page 6 of the project brief, it mentions a parking lot there. So I don't think they're going to do anything with it but make a parking lot out of it. And it does. It's not going to increase the property value for anybody if it's a private park for the church. It's not a park like Linden Park or anything else. It's a private thing for the church. So, I think it's going to be nothing but a parking lot, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Thank you. Next, we'll have Susan Batterton. Thank you. And restate your name and your address and district, please.
I wanted to do a media presentation and I can't, so I have a few pictures. My name is Susan Batterton. I live at 102 Marwinet Place, and I've been there for 47 years. We were excited when New Life Church bought their property. They cleaned it up and seemed to care. We soon realized they cared about all right, but not about the neighbors. The church developed Lot 45, an adjacent residential lot in Broadmoor subdivision, to make a green space for the children about 2015. They cleared the heavily wooded lot, pushed the concrete rubble down the hill beside my backyard, sloped the lot towards my yard, and added dirt and grass. Games were played, children yelled, and a crawfish boil was held for $10 a plate on the green space. And you have pictures of all that. On rainy days, water had poured down the hill and across my yard and still does. How frustrating to endure all of this. My sanctuary is my backyard. After the city officials told them to put up a privacy fence, they finally did on part of that lot. 5 years later, when they covered most of the green space with gravel. The lot is now parking lot east. I am talking about residential lot 45, and that's not the issue, but it's clear to me that history is repeating itself. This time it is not adjacent to Bacchus Road, but in the middle of our neighborhood. They're doing the same thing all over again on the other side of my next-door neighbor on residential lots 31 and 32. Why would a church move in and destroy a neighborhood to benefit people who don't live in the neighborhood? Just after the time when the entire neighborhood opposed the city building a water tank on the lot across the street from the church, and we were successful, thanks to this board, the preacher offered to sell parking lot east to the city for the water tank. When I suggested that they would lose their parking, I was told there was no problem as they had two other lots they could build a parking lot on, lots 31 and 32. I told him then I felt sure there would be opposition, and now they're surprised that we're opposing a park? Is this about volleyball, or is it really about parking? How many terms are there for parking lot? I'm not here to criticize the church. There are wonderful people there, but to suggest they have outgrown their space and shouldn't expand all over our neighborhood. I would suggest that you need to look at perhaps changing the code that the Planning Commission is following, because if they can't consider a bill of assurance for a subdivision, then they're allowing people to violate the law. Property owners should not have to hire a lawyer and file a lawsuit to protect their neighborhood from wrongful intrusion if such covenants do exist. This opens the city and the church up for a lawsuit. Despite being surrounded by garden homes, a bypass, Cornerstone, and Garrett construction, we're still a quiet and peaceful neighborhood, just not as quiet as we once were. This time the Planning Commission got it right. This is not compatible with our neighborhood and does nothing for our safety, health, or welfare. Please honor their decision and help us continue to be a neighborhood of residential homes and people who watch out and care for each other and sometimes tolerate each other, not one of parks and parking lots.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Batterton?
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll call on Ms. Judy Ellis. Ms. Ellis, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Residents gave me to ask that it be handed out. If I could give that to someone, please. Those are some pictures that were taken with some of the traffic that they wanted me to bring up, which I'm going to try to work into what I have to say. My name is Judy Ellis, and I live at 209 Marwinet Place. We have lived there for approximately 45 years. And the corner lot of the proposed family park was once a beautiful wooded lot that God created. There were deer, rabbits, raccoons, and birds. All of that is gone now. Now the trees have been bulldozed down, filled in with all kind of debris, flattened, and often used as an unpaved parking lot for buses and cars. It is no longer a tranquil sanctuary. Did the city monitor what was used to fill in this particular area, and was there a permit for them to do this? A few concerns for a public and private park in the middle of a neighborhood that will be open until 10 p.m. at night, 7 days a week. Number one is the safety for our neighborhood. Will there be a security guard on site every day until the park closes at 10 p.m.? Will park visitors be screened before being allowed into the use of the park? Where will the visitors park? When visitors come to the park, they will drive around our neighborhood to see if the area offers them something else to do, which is quite normal, because if I go somewhere new, I want to know what's in the area in case maybe I don't want to be there and need to take my family elsewhere. This will be a lot of unknown and additional traffic in our subdivision. The lights will be turned off by 10 p.m., but what about before 7, 8, and 9 o'clock? The lights will light up the neighborhood. We enjoy sitting on our porches, decks, and watching fireflies, lunar moths, and enjoying our solitude. We will no longer be able to do this, and this will affect our mental health. Item B on their agenda, and noise control compatible and not adversely affecting the neighborhood. tennis courts, volleyballs, children's playground, a pavilion for utilities, for reunions, weddings, and birthday parties with music and partying until 10 o'clock, 7 days a week. That's really not compatible in the middle of a subdivision. And how about their bonfires for cookouts? Will this be permitted in the middle of the city in a neighborhood? Last Monday, my front yard was set on fire, hopefully by someone just turning around in my driveway. If it wouldn't have been for the alertness of someone that happened to be there, that's normally not there, I would not have a home right now. So I'm concerned about additional traffic in the neighborhood. And the church's entrance and the park's gated entrance is on a blind hill. They already have a policeman for the cars to leave in the after service. Are they going to have this also for people to come in? This is a picture of the blind hill where they're coming and going when you top over the hill. And that bus was parked there for 10 or 15 minutes, someone in my neighborhood said, and the neighbors were told that they just have to wait till the bus finished unloading and them do something with that. And there's also the stoplight that's on Packus. It's adjusted on Sundays to accommodate all the additional traffic that's created in the neighborhood. And how long is this project going to take? Is there money in escrow to complete the project? Or will it be done in stages? And then possibly, be a parking lot because they couldn't finish it. And the sanctuary occupancy rating is 354.
Ms. Ellis, can you conclude your comments,
Yes, sir.
please?
Yes, sir. I just have a few more lines here. And now it's up to 225 with the church being built. Approximately 250 cars stream in and out at one of the services. A minimum of 2 people per car, that's 500 people for a service there. So we're asking you to please keep the integrity of our neighborhood as we are the background of America, and please consider our public health, safety, and welfare in upholding the Planning Commission. Because with this open 24/7, all week and then up until 10 o'clock will be disturbing to our neighborhood.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Ellis? Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Now we'll call Mr. John Husenik. Please come forward, restate your name and your district number, please.
Got my name right. I appreciate
Oh, my goodness.
My name is John Husnick. I live at 108 Marwinet Place, directly behind the New Life Church, District 5. Let me give just a little brief history. The New Life Church has been fighting with me for 7 years since they moved in. I'm directly behind them, not 90 feet from their church. This lot is not 20 feet from my house. The first church that was there was a small, quiet, peaceful, loving, caring Pentecostal church. The pastor was a very kind man. He would reach out to the neighborhood. He would come visit us, have coffee, bring donuts over to my house, and we'd fellowship in the house. He always invited us to the services and their dinners, and even gave us leftover food. He was a fine man. He would even help my parents do the yard work because they were getting old. When they moved out, we were saddened greatly. The difference between the two churches is staggering. Never once has this pastor invited us to a service, much less to a dinner, or given us any food. No thought at all. In fact, it's just the opposite. We've been fighting for years because of the noise and the traffic. And someone brought up trash. Their dumpster's right in my backyard, and my backyard is full of trash all the time. Their tree limbs break off their trees and fall into my yard. They won't come help pick them up. They just leave them there. They've told me and my son that we are not welcome in their church. We're not welcome on their property because we've complained so much about the loud music going on sometimes late at night, starting at 7 a.m. and waking us up with the loud bass, that they've turned us into a troublemaker because we complain about the music. Now we're not allowed on their property. The only time this pastor has ever come to visit me, now this is the kind of people we're dealing with. He came to my house and he told me, no, we're not turning down that music. But here's some headsets, earmuffs. Wear the earmuffs when we're having our service and you won't hear us. That's a nice man, isn't it? We've argued for 5 years about a privacy fence up there. They refused. They said, we're not putting up a fence. Then all of a sudden, right when they proposed this project, up goes a fence in one day, 6 foot tall when it needs to be like 10 foot tall. It doesn't do any work. It doesn't do the job. And it's not all the way across. The city should not approve this proposal. It would be a great injustice to this small neighborhood. These lots in question are not 300 Packus. The address is Marwinet Place, right in the middle of our neighborhood. Should we allow everyone that owns lots in this neighborhood be able to have parties? There's 1,000 people in their congregation. Should we allow anybody in this neighborhood to invite people over from out of town and have a tremendous party on their lots? No, we're not going to set that kind of precedent. And this church has parties, big ones too. They put a sign up in front of their church that says, "Come join the party." It's a big banner that they put up in the summertime. I'm going to run over time. Please bear with me. I've only got a couple lines. New Life Church should be ashamed of themselves. They've had so many complaints, and they don't even care anything about what
Yes,
we're
sir.
doing.
We need you just to conclude.
Okay, 4 more lines. They've already deeply wrecked the quality of life in this neighborhood. If this proposal passes, our quality of life will be totally ruined. There is activity there 7 days a week in that church. 10 o'clock is too late. 7 o'clock in the morning is too early.
Thank you.
I'm
Any
sorry I
questions?
went over. but
No, you're fine. Thank you.
Please do not let this happen.
Any questions of the board? Thank you. Last speaker that has signed up on this is Trice Ellis. Please come forward and restate your name and address, please.
Trice Ellis, 209 Marwinet Place, number 5. I'm a registered environmental professional. I'm also a stormwater inspector. And I've been asked by some of the neighbors to look at their at the problem that they're having on runoff on their asphalt that they're having. And they were supposed to correct a problem many years ago for one of the neighbors, of which they have not corrected, and it's already been addressed to you guys on it and everything. But on lot number 45 is the one that's the water has not been diverted. It's still running through the lady's yard. I'm not convinced that with all the asphalt and hard pan on the property that the 25, 50, and 100-year flood plan has ever been developed on it. They've got 150 foot of the swell ditch. What they have put down so far, they have not addressed where the culvert is. They made like that they had cleaned up down around the culvert. It's not. It's still got all the grass and the weeds and everything else under it. The park will have a pavilion with restroom facilities. This is required for a kindergarten playground. They are going to have a kindergarten there, and what I'm saying is that they have a playground up front, but if they're going to move it into this property back here, they're going to have restroom facilities and everything for these kids. They will also have events, weddings, cookouts, which will be supplemented by donations. That's how a lot of these churches work. They'll be if this happens, this kind of puts them into a commercial arena, because they are getting some kind of money for this. The kindergarten will also be for profit. But the thing is that any commercial venture on this property is not allowed by the Broadmoor Subdivision Bill of Assurance. The Bill of Assurance, my Pawpaw Thornton authored the Bill of Assurance for Broadmoor Subdivision. He was adamant about its adherence. Lot number 45 is being used as a green space parking lot. That's not allowed in the Bill of Assurance. If the Bill of Assurance is not honored, it will open up a devastating issue for the real estate industry, the condominium industry, apartments complexes, and gated communities and restricted subdivisions, only to be resolved by litigation. And what this means is if these people come in and put this park in on this property, then it's has to go to court.
Sir, can you conclude, please?
Okay, this is not their right as outsiders to go against the bill of assurance for our R2 subdivision. I mean, that's bottom line right there. That's the key factor right there.
Thank you.
Could I ask him just one question?
Yes,
Mayor?
sir.
There's been a couple of mentions of Lot 45, and I just want to make sure the board understood which lot you're referring to when you say Lot 45. Is that the one that's on Packus?
Yes, and that is Broadmoor subdivision. That is R2. The use of term, but where the church is was a bastard lots is what they were, because my granddad for some reason didn't incorporate that into the main subdivision. For what reason, I don't know. But that's how the church got there and everything. But 45, what they're doing there is illegal, according to our bill of assurance.
And that's been there since 96?
Pardon?
And that's been there since the Pentecostal church was
Yes,
there in 96?
Pentecostal church, yes, sir.
Okay.
But they didn't use it for anything. I mean, that lot was not being used by that church.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we had a number of people who signed up. There may be a few that came late and wanted to speak on the issue, or do we have anybody out in the hallway that couldn't get in?
There is not.
Okay, so I understand. Let me just state, does anybody would like to speak on this issue that has not spoken already?
Already spoken.
Sir, you come forward.
Well, I've spoken already. I just want to say one other thing.
Yeah, he was talking to him.
Come forward, young man. That will come down.
That'll come out if you need
to. My name is William Husnick. I live at 108 Marwinet Place. My father is John Husnick. I have lived in Hot Springs for my entire life, and I've lived in this house for a long time. I've lived in it most of my life, and I can remember whenever there would be woods and stuff there, and there would be animals crossing through our backyards and everything, and that's not there now. Not to mention now there's a whole bunch of trash and a bunch of drain off coming into our property from the rain, and it's been causing a whole lot of problems with my father. He's been having a whole lot of stress from it, and I do remember whenever this church told my father that they were not allowed that he was not allowed on their property anymore, and because of that, I do not feel welcome on their property. And there has never been a mention of any time of anyone inviting us to anything at the church. And I just don't think that this neighborhood, this quiet little neighborhood, should have a church that is against the neighbors, that's not wanting to cooperate with the neighbors, not wanting to have meetings with the neighbors telling them what's going on. And I had no clue what was going on with the lot right next to my house, not 20 feet away from it, whenever they started pushing down all the trees, filling it with dirt. And not only that, but on the 4th of July and on New Year's Eve of 2016, I was 11 years old then. I remember waking up in the middle of the night to what sounded like gunshots, but it turned out to be the church lighting off fireworks, and pretty big, loud fireworks that aren't usually allowed in the city. And I just about had a heart attack whenever they started lighting those fireworks off.
Okay. Any further comments, sir? No. Thank you. Any questions of the young man? Thank you. This completes the list of those who have signed up to speak for and against. I'd like for Kathy Selman to come back to the podium, please. And there's been some discussion and perhaps some a handout that was provided that referenced documentation within a planning file that referenced a parking lot versus a playground. Can you make comment on that?
Yes, this was advertised as a park. There is an unfortunate typo in that. The sad result of cut and paste, that's all I can attribute it to. We have had no discussion with the applicant about a parking lot on that site. It was advertised as a park. The resolution references a park. The application was for conditional use for a park.
So a park is what's being approved. If a parking lot suddenly appeared, what would the city's course of action be?
It would not be consistent with the conditional use that was sought.
What would we do?
We would ask them to stop.
And if they don't? I mean, there's a lot of laughter here, but this is serious stuff. I mean, the issue that I'm picking up here is one of absolute mistrust between either party. I mean, there's bad blood between both parties, and I sure wish they'd find a way to resolve that, but it's obviously not going to happen tonight. But I think the people who are opposed to this want to know what would happen if they put a parking lot in. What remedy does the city have to say stop, or to fine them, or whatever?
We would cite them if they were not in compliance with what they're approved to do. We would take it back to Planning Commission, and they would act to revoke that, and they would have to ask to have a parking lot there, which...
And if we cite them, is that a one-time fine that everybody would be willing to pay? Or is that a recurring process?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first action would be a stop work order.
Okay.
Then there would be cited. If the citation and the fine didn't do the trick, then we have what's called a nuisance abatement program, whereby we use civil remedies to correct violations of law.
Okay.
And so we would seek a mandatory injunction against the property owners to cease and desist the operation of a parking lot.
Kathy, I'm still concerned about the drainage that the property owners on Marionette, south of them, continue to get. Have they raised the elevation of that to prevent that water from coming from across? Have the engineers looked at that?
The city engineer has looked at the plan and found it to be compliant with the code. As far as the specifics of how that is being done, I think the applicant's engineer can probably explain that far better than I can.
Okay. Thank you.
I remember a statement that in my readings that there is a access point to this property, a vehicular access point?
No. That access is for maintenance equipment only.
It's a gate to get them.
Probably a lawnmower.
Okay, so it's more of a walk-through gate? Not a vehicular gate?
It's not intended for vehicles to be on this site.
Okay. Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Director Selman, at the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned something about one of the points was about desirability in the neighborhood. What was that?
The code section on conditional use?
Yes.
Would you like me to read that
Yes,
sentence? Okay, it's a use that conforms to the intent of the comprehensive plan for a specific area and is generally allowable. The use may represent potential problems with its respect to impact on neighboring property or to the city as a whole. For this reason, it requires careful review of its location, design, configuration, and spatial impact to determine the desirability of allowing it on a particular site. Is that what you meant?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes.
Two questions. First, Ms. Selman, somebody mentioned tennis courts. Is that part of the plan, or do you know anything about that?
Tennis courts are not a part of this plan.
Okay. And Counselor, I just need more information about this bill of assurance and what the city's role is, because it seems pretty clear to me.
Yeah, the city has no role in a bill of assurance. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, the courts view this as a contractual obligation, and in fact, the Supreme Court has gone so far as to say that if a planning commission, in this case, a county planning commission, this case is referring to, if a county planning commission were to adopt a bill of assurance, it does nothing more than to entitle the owner to place them of record. We must remember that courts do not favor restrictions. The right to enforce restrictions as to the use rests upon the contractual basis, imposing upon the grantor and his grantees the obligation of observing them. So it's outside of the city's purview to enforce. We're not privy, we're not a party, we're not, this isn't a court of law to determine what the rights are under a bill of assurance.
Thank you.
Director Garcia?
May I follow up with a question to the city
Please.
attorney? And so we don't, the city doesn't enforce any neighborhood's bill of assurance. And so the question before us is to overrule the decision by the planning commission to not change to issue the conditional use, which is a zoning change.
It's not a zoning change.
What is the conditional use?
Conditional use is a land use issue. It's a land use phenomenon, but it's not. I disagree with the Supreme Court, okay? But the Supreme Court has said in Kings Ranch versus the city of Jonesboro that a conditional use application is not a rezone, and therefore is not legislative, but is rather quasi-judicial. And so that's why in 2012, I sent the board at that time a memo spelling all that out, and I sent that to you again once we found out that this was going to be on the agenda, and that's why we had the discussion with Director Weatherford. So it's not a zoning issue. It is a land use issue. It requires a special permit, a conditional use permit.
So that's the questions about the land use.
Yes.
And, well, you're not to our comments yet, are you?
Well, we are into the comments
We
section.
are. Well,
I did want to ask Director Silman before she sat down.
Okay.
Is the board considering bathrooms or a kindergarten or anything like? I just heard bathrooms in kindergarten.
The board is not considering kindergarten. Kindergarten.
Is there an application to place restrooms?
In looking at the site plan, I know that there are utilities. Yeah, the pavilion is served with utilities.
Okay.
They are not identified on the site plan.
I would just comment that if the church were to try to have a kindergarten, whether it's on this lot or on the lot where their building is, that's a different application. They have to come through the planning department again for that kind of application. That's not by right. This conditional use is specific to the use that you might approve, and that's all.
Okay.
Director Holliday.
This kind of dovetails a little bit with what Director Foley said. There's definitely a lot of mistrust and bad blood between the residents of the neighborhood and the church, and we do have processes in place in the city for dealing with people's garbage coming into your yard. I'm assuming we have some for drainage. That's not something I've come across, but I definitely want to encourage everybody who's having this problem to make sure that they're having a different conversation with the city, because while it is a valid argument, I don't think it is one that actually applies to the use of the land, if I'm correct, that the personalities of the individuals at play are not something that we can take into consideration. But at the same time, neighbors do not get to infringe upon neighbors like this on a regular basis without some type of recourse with neighborhood services or something. So, I would definitely say that's another conversation to have, and a very important one. I don't want anyone to think that we don't find it important, but it isn't something that, from my understanding, comes into this conversation.
Director Garcia?
I know people that attend New Life Church. I know the people in the neighborhood. That whole neighborhood is part of my district. Since this appeal was filed, I have not talked to anyone there that lives in the neighborhood. Not talked to anyone in the church. I'm glad it was mentioned why phone calls weren't returned, because I always talk to my constituents, but we weren't allowed to because, as the city attorney mentioned, the role we play in hearing this case. And so that was for both sides. So I did not talk to anyone. However, prior having to this issue, I have seen the drainage issues there that have not been all the way resolved. So I do have drainage issues, and I do believe how you use that land and what you say is required does play a role in further making more drainage problems before the original one is completely resolved. And I'd been looking to see if Denny McFate was still here, because I thought at one time he was overseeing some mitigating work in that area to help with that mitigation, because there was some work being done to mitigate that stormwater runoff. And when we have a lot of rain, it's like a gully washer, almost a waterfall coming down through there that I have been called over before to see. And that's a real concern. I heard Pastor Tony say they want to be the best neighbor as possible, and I believe you when you say that, but I also have concerns as the best neighbor. Why wouldn't y'all have all talked together to try to, even as a courtesy, to talk to the neighborhood to get them on board before going forward? There may have been, I believe there may have been opportunity for some type of compromise without extending any further bad blood between organizations or the neighborhood and the church. And maybe we could have avoided all this. But however, at this time, I still have a concern about the drainage, and I will vote to hold with the Planning Commission's decision.
Director Garcia, I'll try to answer that. Denny is not here. From my understanding, when this project came through the development review process, that was reviewed by staff, stormwater, and our engineers. Conditions were placed that those had to be rectified. And I think Mr. George just mentioned that with this plan, those things were coming into that bioswale, which would improve the drainage that you just mentioned. And staff, as they looked at that and looked at our code and those requirements, agreed that that would be rectified should that move forward.
Mr. George said it would reduce. It wasn't stated that it would remedy it completely.
But it did meet our code.
Bill, that drainage, that swale, I thought was on the northeast corner of this development next to the church. And so that doesn't really address, unless that thing is sloped to the southwest. Is that property sloped to the southwest at that point? Is that where the water's coming from? Can we,
I don't-
you
I
understand
don't
what
have-
I'm saying?
I
Can we get a
do.
map up there?
I don't
please?
think we have that in our packet.
There you
but-
go.
But I do know that our engineering and stormwater staff, when they looked at that, they agreed that it met the code.
I'd like to
I'm
ask,
concerned about the drainage, and I'm not happy with the remedy for it. I mean, we get into legal proceedings because it wasn't fixed.
No, I understand that, but in speaking of our engineering and our stormwater, we can't go beyond what the code allows us to do.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a good point, too. I hadn't thought of that.
Director Garcia?
When the parking lot was added, did it meet code?
I did not go back and look at those directors, Director Garcia. I will say that staff does not have a position for or against this project or any other. We look at the plans, we look at the comments that we place under development review to make sure that if it doesn't meet code when they bring the plan in, that we put those conditions on there that it has to meet the code. They have 10 days, I think it is, to get our reviewed a set of drawings back in that encompasses all of the comments, not just from engineering, but all of the staff members that go through the development review. And if they bring back a set of plans that meets the code, then we accept those.
Okay it.
Now,
Well,
during the time that they get a permit, if it was to move forward, we would be out there inspecting that project to make sure it did meet code. But I understand your concern that there may have been a project years ago that did not meet the code.
well, it's
Can
been
we still-
within the 7 years, but I'm just saying if it did meet code and we're getting this type flooding, we need to reevaluate code.
That could have been prior to some of the codes that we
That we
currently
have now?
That's correct.
Director Foley?
I haven't really lost the question. I don't know how to phrase
Well,
it. Can a piece of property meet code and still flood the neighbors? That's my question. It can. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask the appellant, Mr. Tom Hill, to come forward one more time, please. Tony Hill, I'm sorry. Tony. There was some discussion about whether this was going to be a parking lot. Are we ever going to see a car on that?
Well, our intention is for you not to see a car on there. That's our intention.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further
My
questions?
turn now.
Oh, excuse me. Director Jones?
Ms. Selman. You say staff needed 7 detailed conditions. Did they have the 7 detailed conditions?
The conditions
Were
must
given?
be met and then continue to be met during the operation of an approved conditional use.
Ongoing?
Yes,
Okay.
they are ongoing.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Director Foley?
Can somebody phrase what the voting is going to be, since this is in the affirmative and it's appeal?
Yes, all matters come to the board in the affirmative, so a yes vote would be to grant the application for conditional use. A no vote would deny the application for conditional use.
Thank you.
No, it would be with the planning commission, right?
If you want to support the vote of the Planning Commission, you would vote no. If you want to support the appellant, as the city attorney said, these come forward in the affirmative. So And
Yes is
approval
no
would
and
be
no
to
is-
go forward and build the
Yes.
playground.
Call for the vote.
Yeah,
So-
that's how it is.
Please call the roll.
Director Clark,
No.
Garcia,
No.
Folly,
No.
Holiday,
Aye.
Jones,
No.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Motion, this resolution or ordinance.
Resolution.
Resolution fails. For those, we'll take a couple minutes to allow the room to vacate. Directors, if you want to take a second to
Can we go to the restroom?
leave your area, please come back in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
By the time Garcia go and come back, it'll be 5 minutes.
Just need to stand up.
I'm so bad. Hey! get cold.
She's got to fire up.
And these pants got lining in them. And then
We'll go ahead and begin. So thank you for allowing us a little recess break. That's much appreciated, and also allowed time for those who were speaking or had an interest in that last issue be able to vacate, and others who might have been out in the hall and didn't have access to the room for these upcoming items could do so. So at this time, we're going to reconvene, and we're going to address ordinance 020-12, and that's before we can move forward to need a motion to suspend the rules to read by title.
So moved.
We got a motion by Director Clark, seconded by Director Jones to suspend the rules to read by title. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion accepted. Please read by title.
Ordinance 020-12, an ordinance authorizing sole source agreement with Hope Works Job Experience Program for certain employment opportunities and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
moved. Second.
Got a bunch of people. I want to go with Director Garcia and Director Jones. And our staff report will be provided by Deputy City Manager Lance Spitzer. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'd be remiss. They've held on with us throughout this conditional use. We have a couple of the really folks that have helped drive this program forward. You know, we're happy to be bringing this forward for the board. I think this is one of your bigger initiatives that you had in 19. It's carried forward into 20. There's been a lot of hard work to come to it. We have Kathy Randall and Sally Carter with St. Luke's Shower Ministry. Of course, we have Janie Smith with Jackson House and the Hope Works program. So they're in the back of the room, but obviously they've played a monumental role. And if we could, I think it'd be great to give them a round of applause for that. Thank you. Basically, the city, following that homelessness summit that the city held back in June of 2019, that was one of the kind of turning points for us as we moved into to this outreach program. We saw the response from those nonprofits and service providers that we needed a new approach in dealing with those that were experiencing poverty, homelessness, and including those engaged in panhandling activities. So really what you've got a combination of substance abuse, mental health issues that often keeps these individuals as the hardest populations to move out of poverty. Program models from across the country have shown that giving an opportunity to earn money and gain job experience bridges the long-standing engagement gap with those populations. This evening, we are pleased to propose a contract for services with the Hope Works Job Experience Program for up to $80,000 to administer this pilot work program. And obviously, the program itself is much more than a contract for services. It's about getting outreach and providing those that need the help, the services that they need. Really, the premise of the program itself is to offer participants day labor to pick up litter across the city. Pretty simple premise. The program itself has a lot of far-reaching ability as well. One of the benefits is connecting participants with needed services, especially support services offered by our partners that we have in the room. We are proud to partner with Jackson House and the newly formed Hope Works Job Experience Program, which was formed specifically to administer this program. The program itself will operate up to 3 days a week. We're going to have 8 participants. There'll also be 2 supervisors. They're kind of the backbone of the group. The city has stepped up and has utilized a surplus Parks and Recreation van that we're donating to the program for the transport of these individuals. And really, one of the key things is the pay. Pay is minimum wage for those working. It's $10 an hour. Supervisors will earn $11.75 an hour. All told, obviously, if the participants earn over $600, they will be required at enrolling in the program to fill out the IRS 1099 form for reporting purposes. The city's really excited to have this program up and running, obviously, to kick it off actually, because as you saw from Mr. Azell and his presentation, there's a tremendous amount of those in need, and the program itself is meant to help those really that are impacted and really provide kind of that gap between those services. Hot Springs is pretty blessed to have really a lot of organizations that reach out and provide assistance to those that need help. But really, it's time for the city to bring this program forth. It's not a new program. They're models. They call them low barrier employment programs across the country. It's time for Hot Springs. Little Rock has been really successful in theirs. There's been others across the country, but in speaking with Janie Smith with Jackson House, we've been pleasantly surprised in really the interest in the program whenever it was announced that we would be rolling this out some months ago. I think they have a pretty decent waiting list, so we're excited to begin the program and really get the services to those that need it.
Any questions of Mr. Spicer? Thank you. Did we have anybody sign up to speak?
No, sir.
Our partners may want to say something.
Ms. Carter or Ms. Janie, you want to come up and make any comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, and we certainly appreciate the city's help in this. It's been wonderful. And I'll tell you that at our church, our shower ministry, now since October, they come in the door on Tuesday morning and they'll say, Doc, are we going to sign up today? When are we going to start work? We're ready to work. And we keep saying, just wait a minute. We've got to fill out the paperwork, and we've got to get all of those things taken care of by the state and the feds. We do realize it's late in the year, and we certainly need you to approve the wording that you will help us and fund it up to $50,000 for this year. We'll have it prorated, and then we can go from there. And we've already got our 501(c), but we need to get that tax-exempt paperwork filed with the federal government. Once that comes back, we're ready to go. We'll be happy to have y'all sign up to drive the bus or chaperone or whatever you'd like to do.
Mayor, would you like to give her the good news? I think it's up to 80.
Yeah, I think the presentation was 80,000. Do you not need the 80?
80.
Yes, sir, we do.
I'm just
But
trying to.
Because of the time of the year that we're starting, I'm going to ask you also, because of the forms that we filled out with the federal government on our 501, if you would this year go put down the 50. We're going to talk to you about that.
I'm sure you will.
That has never happened.
Yeah.
That has never happened.
We're saving you some money this year.
Mayor.
Only in Hot Springs.
Coming back for 110
Yeah,
next year. Take that 80 and the 30, I saved you.
Now, y'all know I hadn't had any experience in trying to raise any money.
Sally, you're going to ask for 110 next time. 80 plus the 30 that you saved us.
But we're going to put it to good use.
You know, Sally was with us at that original meeting, as well as Director Garcia and Director Clark, and really we started working on it right after that, and then we had the summit. But, you know, Lance touched on this, Mr. Spicer touched on this, but, you know, the real impetus is to develop a relationship with these supervisors that he mentioned and the participants that are in the program, especially those that may not be seen on that Tuesday. And you know, we've got mental illness, we have other issues that are out there within this population, and we want to try to connect them through United Way and through some of the other resources to really break the chain. And that's really what this program is about. It's great that they're able to make minimum wage. It's a great benefit to have litter abatement on our highways throughout the town. But if we can get help to some of these individuals and break that chain and get them back into a working environment, then we've succeeded.
And this is just a win-win for everyone. As a result of that summit, and I want to brag on our city director, city manager, we have been able to work together. We have so many agencies right now. Janie can tell you, but we are working together better than we ever have. And being able to share resources and those things. I apologize, I'm getting over bronchitis.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Any discussion among, did we have any public, we didn't have anybody from the public sign up. Any discussion amongst directors? Director Foley.
I would just like to express both my appreciation and my pride of all of you who have worked to get this done to this point. All of you. Lance, Bill, Janie, Sally, all of you.
Thank you. Director Garcia, you had your hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to join him in thanking everyone as well. But I wanted to mention that from the report we had at the beginning on the homeless count, from year to year, it was over a 17% increase in homelessness. So we definitely need this, and we need as much support for this program. And with these nonprofits, I think that this is just the beginning, and that they'll, working together, be able to take this to a much higher level to help that number, instead increasing year after year, will start decreasing.
Yeah, and Director Garcia, I don't know if Mr. Hazel's still here, but you know, one of the items that we've discussed on the point in time count this year was, you know, was there really a 17% increase, or did we just have a better way of tracking and gathering the data? And because I can tell you, using the transportation depot and the number of volunteers they had this year, and the number of people that came to us at that facility, I really think this is probably the year that we had the best count that we've ever had. Still a significant issue, and not to deteriorate from that, but hopefully, as you just mentioned, this program and others will help that decrease.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready? You have a...
I would just like to congratulate those two women back there. They're some tough sisters. I was on a committee with both of them, and they just yes you. You can't say no to them. Did you notice that, Bill?
Yes, ma'am, I did, and you all deserve a pat on the back as well, because if you recall, this was one of the goals you set for staff, and that's what we set out to do.
But they really come through. I love you both, really.
They are strong women.
They're tough, I'm telling you.
They're going to make this program successful.
Yes, and with no further ado, I move that we adjourn for the night.
You're out of order. No, we got to call the roll. Miss Morrissey, please call the roll.
All right.
We have other business to take care of.
I know that, ma'am. Got you.
Director Weatherford. Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark. Aye. Mayor McCabe.
Ordinance is adopted. Thank you. I will consider ordinance 02013 and entertain a motion to suspend the rules, read by title.
So moved.
Second.
Foley, Director Jones, all in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance number 020-13, an ordinance approving C4 zoning on land known as Fairdale Addition Subdivision, Block 15, lots 12 through 14, amending the future land use plan map to designate the area linear commercial corridor and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So move. Second.
Director Jones and Director Clark. And our staff report will be provided by Planning and Development Director Kathy Salmon.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant on this item is Matthew Breckenridge with Crafton Tull and Associated on behalf of Oaklawn Jockey Club Incorporated. They're seeking a zone change consideration from R3 low-density residential to C4 regional commercial open display district for multiple lots in the vicinity of Highland and Tuggle Street. These lots are located across Highland Street northeast of the current Oak Lawn Jockey Club backside barns operation. It's approximately 0.55 acres of land. They have a future land use map designation of residential medium high, and they're located in Board of Directors District 5. This rezone would be an extension of the large area of existing C4 that is contiguous to the subject properties to the south across Highland Street. Surrounding zone districts include C4, Regional Commercial Open Display District to the south, and R3, Low-Density Residential District to the west, north, and east. Surrounding properties are generally occupied by modest single-family homes. Oak Lawn Jockey Club, backside barn operations, and vacant land. The City of Hot Springs owns adjacent property to the east of the subject property. Planning Commission duly advertised and called for testimony on the subject application at their regularly scheduled meeting, February 13, 2020. One person spoke but was neither for nor against the request. Planning Commission considered the record and voted 8-0, with Commissioner Hobby recusing for conflict, to recommend that the board approve an ordinance rezoning Fairdale Addition Subdivision, Block 15, Lots 12, 13, and 14, to C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District, amending the future land use map to designate the property linear commercial corridor, accepting the staff report findings and recommendations because the requirements of Hot Springs Code, Section 16 to 11, are met.
Very good. Any questions of Director Selman?
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one person has signed up to speak on this issue, Mr. Matthew Breckenridge. Please come forward and restate your name, address, and district.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Breckenridge with Craft and Toll & Associates. My address is 10825 Financial Center Parkway, Little Rock, Arkansas. And there's not much more I can add to Director Selman's summary, but I'm here to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to just ask, since we had so many people earlier in the process of trying to get to the sign-up sheet, might have been difficult. Did anybody else want to speak on this issue? Okay, thank you. Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. We move to, let's see where I'm. Item 8, consider ordinance O20-14. Entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Garcia, Director Foley. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance number O20-14, an ordinance amending certain sections of Hot Springs Code, Title 11, Chapter 1, Article 3, to revise airport policies and procedures related to aviation fuel rates and for other purposes. That concludes reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director
Second.
Weatherford, seconded by Director Garcia. And our staff report is provided by Airport Director Manager Glenn Barentine. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Directors. This is a much-needed revision in the update to the airport policy in reference to the fuel pricing policy. This last time this was updated, it was in 2015. The airport relies on fuel sales as a main source of revenue with over 500,000 gallons sold annually. The airport surveys regional airports such as Little Rock, Texarkana, Fort Smith, and Fayetteville for current fuel prices. excuse me, in comparison, Hot Springs is well below the average retail price for across the state. Because of this comparison, the airport staff suggests increasing the allowable margin on aviation fuel. Currently, the margin is set at 55 cents to $1.50 for jet, 55 cents to $1.30 for 100 low lead. We propose a $2 max margin on both types of fuel. This does not mean that the airport will automatically increase the margin to $2, only to provide us the ability to stay competitive with other airports. Staff has created a written policy that will use a survey of these airports to establish an average retail price. In reviewing the ordinance, we also wanted to simplify the discount list and break it down to just local customers, volume discount, self-service, charitable organizations, and special events. We also, looking at this, we see that there's been a trend for customers to use more of the contract fuel costs, and we would like to update the handling fees to make it as more of a owners use the contract fuel prices, have these prices reflect the current market. If these increases are provided, an annual increase to the airport revenues would be $100,000, and this would only be if it's a 20 cents increase. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Barentine? Thank you. We had no member of the public sign up to speak.
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance 020-15. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules to read by title only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Our staff report will...
Let me read it for you first, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ordinance 020-15, an ordinance approving PD plan development, zone district, and site plan and amending the future land use plan map to residential medium-high for approximately 8 acres, generally located at 171 Wayward Wind Terrace, and for other purposes. That does conclude your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
And a second by Director Foley. And now we'll have Planning and Development Director Kathy Selman provide a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is Aaron Burrows with Atoka Incorporated, representing property owners Mark Carter and Joseph France. They're seeking plan development, PD, zoning, and site plan approval to construct a large-scale short-term rental project on the subject property to be known as Hot Springs Lodge and Resort. The subject consists of approximately 8 acres of land. It's currently zoned RL, Lake Area Residential District. This property has a future land use map designation of residential low and is located in Board of Directors District Number 5. The property contains significant grade changes, which average slope is 36%. I think that slope contributes greatly to the request for plan development zoning. The RL zoning that is in place at this time with conditional use approval by Planning Commission could permit exactly what is being proposed. But because of the slope, the Plan Development Zone District allows for more flexibility in the arrangement of the structures as proposed on the property. The surrounding properties are zoned Plan Development, RL, Lake Area Residential, and CTR, Commercial Transitional. Surrounding land uses include single-family residential, a small-scale marine boat repair, short-term rental at 5 Points Resort, sewer lift station, and vacant lands. The proposed development will occupy the entire site and contain a lodge structure with a total of 42 sleeping rooms and 14 detached single-family residences or cabins. The proposed use of the project is for short-term rental. The project is to include family-friendly accommodations for extended family groups in the lodge structure, as well as more traditional detached single-family residential units along the lake and on the hilltop. Access is to be gained by way of a new drive entrance from Buena Vista Road, and this would be approximately 350 or so feet south and west of the existing road. So it's on the opposite side of the curve in Buena Vista. The new entrance would be gated, and all streets within the development are to be private and therefore will not be maintained by the City of Hot Springs. The narrative describes a unique and flexible concept and design for a large-scale lodge structure with scattered site single-family dwellings or cabins for short-term rental use. This concept could not be achieved through normal zoning regulations. Planning Commission duly advertised and called for testimony on the subject application at their regularly scheduled meeting February 13, 2020. Several people offered their concerns about the proposed PD, specifically citing traffic impact on Buena Vista, which they described as unsafe at this time, short-term rental effects, and multiple-use resort impacts on surrounding properties, disturbing possible eagles, scale of the resort not compatible with the surrounding area, and lack of care by the developer when he undertook land alteration activities without permits. The applicant responded, saying that he misunderstood the rules and stopped immediately when told. Planning Commission considered the record and voted 8-0 to recommend that the board approve an ordinance rezoning 8 acres at 171 Wayward Winds Terrace to planned development, to adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map designating the subject property PD planned development for residential, short-term residential, unusual and customary uses, and amending the future land use designation for the property to residential medium-high because Planning Commission made a specific finding that the requested change meets the standards required by Hot Springs Code Section 16-247E, and it is compatible with surrounding development and zoning with 8 conditions, accepting the staff report findings and recommendations because with those conditions, the requirements of the Hot Springs Code 16-211 and 16-247 are met.
Thank you. Any questions of Director Selman?
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a number of people who have signed up to speak on this issue tonight. And we're back to the 3 minutes. If the directors keep you up here with questions from themselves, you're certainly beyond that, but that's our doing. We ask that your comments be restricted to 3 minutes. So, Ms. Janet Horton. Ms. Horton, please come forward and you can, okay, did you have any prepared comments you wanted to share? Okay, thank you. Joey Horton.
I oppose the rezoning and mention the Eagles. There's no property down there, go.
Okay, thank you. Glenda Dunn.
Thank you to everyone for staying here so late tonight. I didn't think I'd be here this late either.
Could you restate your name and address?
My name is Glenda Dunn, and I live at 789 Buena Vista Road, which is in District 5. I am opposed to this development for several reasons, but I'm going to typically cover our traffic. I did give you a packet which has some pictures that back up the evidence that I am going to be discussing. One being that there are no turning lanes on Buena Vista Road once you pass the Suzuki shop after you've come off Central Avenue, nor is there room to make those for turning into the new development. The entrance to the new development is going to be within a very close proximity to the large S curve that is on Buena Vista Road, and that's also included in those pictures. That S curve is a very dangerous curve in being able to see around as far as vehicles. With that being a gated property, there could very well possibility be backup in the summertime with vehicles and boats and stuff trying to enter the project, therefore blocking Buena Vista Road. Buena Vista Road is a dead-end road, so there's only one way in and one way out on public access. And I've also mentioned, as far as the curves that are mentioned on the beginning of Buena Vista Road, just past the storage units and the Star windshield, there's a large curve there, which is difficult for boats, trailers, and jet skis. This morning I passed a truck pulling a landscaping trailer, and I basically had to stop so that he could make that curve because he had to come onto my side of the road. There are also no shoulders or very few shoulders on Buena Vista. The sides of the roads have ditches and or culverts on a majority of Buena Vista Road. During the construction project and crossing the road for the utilities, according to what it states in the draft, there's concern that Buena Vista Road may have to be closed, which would also hinder any emergency vehicle access beyond the project. The moving in and out of heavy construction vehicles can cause damage to the Buena Vista and will add danger to other drivers not seeing them in the blind spots. The intersection of Buena Vista and Central Avenue is already very congested with the additional traffic. Will make it very hazardous, as is the sign that's stated that has been recently placed there in front of the Suzuki place that says hazardous intersection. So it just justifies what we're saying. When you pull off a Central Avenue on Buena Vista, there is constantly traffic pulling out of Walmart and not stopping to allow the traffic that is going straight either way on Buena Vista. According to the project brief, it states that upon the completion of the project that they estimate the additional traffic to be 115 vehicles per day, and we believe that to be much understated. With
Ms.
42
Dunn, can you
room,
provide
just about a couple more sentences. With the 42 room lodge, bunk beds, and project brief, we estimated 42 vehicles at the lodge. That's one per room, and 28 vehicles at the dwellings. That's two per dwelling, and 10 vehicles for employees. If you total that to one trip in and one trip out a day, that's 80 trips, and that's 160 additional trips per day, just with one in and one out. So we just don't feel that the traffic count is adequate. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sharon Roberts?
I was going to address the safety.
Please come forward. Okay.
So I'm opposed to this rezoning.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Mike Bush? Please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Yes, sir. I'm Mike Bush. I live at 106 San Carlos Cove in District 5. Of course, I'm opposing this property. In the application, they mention a marina and a boat repair place. Actually, this place was built as a rental several years ago, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. And Dr. Schmidt bought this property, and it's just a storage area for him. It's personal property, and it's nothing in there for rent or storage for any outside person. Also, across the street, they mentioned a mobile home park. Well, there is 4 mobile homes across the street that's been there. I've only been there 15 years, so they've been there longer than I have. And I don't really consider that a mobile home park, but maybe that's my definition. So, of course, lake safety is a big concern of ours. Our cove, Hot Springs Creek runs into our cove, where all of our houses are inside the gated area down at Lighthouse Cove. The cove, we're adjacent to their property just across the cove. From our boardwalk over to their existing boat ramp that they have now is 90 yards, approximately. And that's about the widest point across there to their property. And it does nothing but get narrower back toward the end of the cove, which is their property. It doesn't connect to ours, but it's just, very narrow across there, a few feet at the end. Where our docks are, that would be directly across to where their proposed boat docks are, is 80 yards or 240 feet. So, like I said, Hot Springs Creek runs into that area. It brings a lot of fishermen and stuff in there already. And we have probably in that cove alone, over 60 docks that's in there now, which of course allows for that many boats, as well as double that in jet skis and traffic. Of course, there's several areas inside that cove, because there's another cove once you go out of our cove before you get to the main lake. There's a lot of shallow areas in there that if you don't know it, you're going to go aground in there, which then you go and you add a bunch of, possibility of a bunch of boat trailers and their existing boats that if they've got 10 or 12 docks and jet skis as well, which they're proposing, you've got those plus any that visitors there or that's staying overnight or whenever, it just adds to that much more boat traffic.
Could you provide a conclusion?
Well, pretty much about, just the safety there at the lake and the accidents it may cause, with the paddle boards and kayakers out there as well that, stay in that cove, kind of stay out of the main traffic of the lake. So kids swimming and all that. And
Thank you.
that's all I got. Thank you all very much. Thank you for all y'all's service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Harry Dennison.
I'm just here in the support of Lighthouse Cove.
Thank you. Sherry Dennison. Please restate your name and address and district.
My name is Cheryl Dennison, excuse me, and I live at 130 San Carlos Cove, which is in District 5, and I'm opposed to this construction. First, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. And in July of 2019, a parcel of land known as Enclave B was annexed into the city of Hot Springs. Enclave residents were assured of the benefits and the protections for those living in the city of Hot Springs. Of course, one of the things that we were talked about is the predictable development standards and the city zoning codes. The city zoning codes include that no new property zones may be created within the land of an existing classification unless rezoning is appropriate to the area and in the general public interest. It says such rezoning must also convincingly demonstrate that the character of the neighbors and the neighborhoods will not be materially or adversely affected by the uses permitted in the proposed change. In 2016, your city staff drove the streets in Enclave B. They looked at the property and they gave it an RL lake zoning code. Okay. Because of legal challenges, we didn't come into the city until 2019. But the footprint and the character of the neighborhoods that are there have not changed since 2016. We're still the same. There has been no new construction or development that would warrant changing the zoning code. Okay. I think you've heard some arguments here, and I think they convincingly demonstrate that the character of the neighborhoods in Buena Vista will be changed. I have with me tonight petitions or signatures of business owners and those who live on Buena Vista and in the surrounding streets. These signatures signify and represent people. People who own their homes and their businesses, people who lease, people who live in modern homes and modest homes, and people who live in million-dollar homes. People who live there short-term. I visited with one family, they'd been in their home 2 days. I also visited with couples who had been in their homes 40 years. There are people of different ages and sexes and races, people with many differences, but they all will be impacted by the rezoning and the construction at Wayward Wind sites. These people believe that the rezoning is not in their best interest. I respectfully ask that you thoughtfully consider the things you've heard, that you weigh the information carefully as you decide to consider the best living conditions for these folks. And I urge you to exercise your authority as an act of good faith to the property owners and residents of former Conclave B. I ask you to vote no.
Thank you. Miss Agnes Gibbs.
I live at 128 Carlos Cove, and I oppose.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ron Kelsey.
Ron Kelsey, I'm an attorney, and I've been hired by Lighthouse Cove POA to address some of their concerns on the proposed rezoning. We've heard it said tonight that the city code was to control the density of population and the appropriate use of the land as well as the convenience of the traffic. We've heard some of that already, as well as stated that the surrounding properties were a resort and a boat repair marina. Now, of course, these are pre-existing non-conforming uses that were just grandfathered in from being in the area for 80 or 90 years and wouldn't really necessitate redesignating the plan development from the RL. The future land use map has been stated also, signified that this property would be residential low. This plan development is not in conformity with that. This lodge of 42 sleeping rooms, 6 kitchens, 14 other houses is basically a medium-sized hotel sitting on the lake right next to this single-family homes. So, and the target population would be large family reunions coming down on pavilions right on the lake, making noise right across a narrow cove from these individual houses. They do not think that would be in their best interest or their property values. It states in the application that the applicant wanted this to look similar to Watermill Cove in Branson, Missouri. I've given the board an email from the Chamber of Commerce in Branson stating that Watermill Cove is about a 6-mile drive outside of Branson in an area where there are some pictures I've also attached to that email showing that it's basically surrounded by woods. And that is a separate area, not like this. This is a very distinct change. This one's right in the heart of the city. Okay, so you have this project that they're trying to model after Watermill Cove, which is outside the city. And that's where the residents of Lighthouse Cove think it should be. Outside the city, it would be an appropriate spot, not annoying neighbors right across the cove in their residential homes. Further, the review process, as you all know, under E2, was stated by Director Sullivan, is that the plan developments should not create undue or unmitigated negative traffic impacts. We've heard that stated earlier. I'll just point out that the plan, in the short time we have, does not have a traffic study. It just come up with a number of 115, and it's not substantiated in their application. It's the belief that of the POA that there would be much more traffic on a narrow road that already has problems by Walmart and Freddy's and at the light at Central. This would just exacerbate that. The rezoning would not be compatible with existing developments. As I stated a little bit earlier, the 5 Points Resort is really not a comparable use, but there was no zoning restrictions back then when it came into effect. Now there's Area B enclave, and the POA is just asking to be protected. And that's essentially, I think what we've got here is a square development trying to go in a round hole. It's just not the right fit.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Kelsey? Thank you.
We'll note that it took an attorney to break the clock. Ron, you
You did break it.
You did right. Here we go.
Can't control them, you can only hope to contain them. All right. Next speaker is Fred Kelsey. Mr. Kelsey, please come forward, restate your name, address, and district, please.
Good evening, Mayor McCabe and City Manager Bill Leary, and my beloved director over there, Karen Garcia, and the rest of the board. Most of these comments, I think, that I was going to make has already been made. And it's getting late, and I'm not going to run it in the ground. But I've lived there since March of 2006. I was the first family to move in phase 2. And if they made that commercial up there and they started getting all that traffic on Buena Vista, it would be a horrible nightmare there. We all own our property in fee simple, and we're entitled to live in quiet comfort. So I'm just going to say I'm in strong opposition to this development. Now, if it's going to be developed at low density like us, I don't see any problem with that. They ought to be developed for something, but not in high density. We don't need high density there. So I want to thank all of you for your service to our city. I know you all spend a lot of time down here, and I'd appreciate if this is denied. This would really hurt our property owners down there. Thank all of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Ted Jolly, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Hi, I'm Ted Jolly. I live at 778 Buena Vista in District 5. And I'm not in Lighthouse Cove. I'm on Buena Vista just before. In fact, I'm closer to this property than they are. And it really makes me nervous just that how, and that's one thing I don't want to keep, because it's late now. I know I'm hitting some of the same stuff, but what I really want to emphasize is, for those of you, this is a very narrow cove from our property to there. It's not like a lot of places in Lake Hamilton where there's a cove and you can see. I mean, this literally, I can stand on my property and I don't have a great arm. I can easily throw a rock and hit the other side. So what's happening there will really impact us. And earlier, Ms. Dennison quoted on the code, I believe it's 16-2-29, the creation of new zones. And I'll shorten just the last part, which says, such rezoning must also convincingly demonstrate that the character of the neighborhood will not be materially or adversely affected by the uses permitted in the proposed change. And I just feel like the character of the neighborhood, it's single-family homes. It's not short-term rentals. It's not a 42-room result. The character of the neighborhood is quiet, calm, and very peaceful. When people come over, a lot of people will comment, like on Lake Hamilton, this is kind of hard to find. This is really nice. It's a medium to high density resort is just going to make it extremely crowded, extremely congested, even more so than a lot of places in Lake Hamilton because this cove is so small. Our cove is very safe, and safety was brought up a minute ago. I don't think it's been emphasized enough. I have kids, a lot of us grandkids, children out there playing in the water, and it is very safe. The amount, the number, the volume of people that will come to this, if the zone is changed, I don't mean to be overly dramatic. I don't think it's a matter of if there's an accident. It's just a matter of when. It will happen. It's just too many people in such a small area. Again, the increase in the noise, the pavilions near the water, the illumination, the lights coming across, it was going to adversely affect us, just like the says in the code. Just to summarize here, obviously we're very proud of our neighborhood and our small, quiet, peaceful area of Lake Hamilton. We want it to remain a special place. Many areas of the lake are already zoned for this type of development. Many areas of the lake also have significant safety issues. Our location is prized by its neighbors because it's nice, it's calm, and most importantly, it is safe. We do not want it destroyed by a medium to high development property. The owners who bought this property, I feel like they should definitely be able to develop something that they're proud of and that's profitable to them without creating major safety issues both on and off the lake, and also respecting their neighbors. And I just ask you to please vote no and protect our neighborhood.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Jolly? Thank you. I actually flipped over the first sign-in sheet, and there's a name on the back that was written as against. Mr. Jeff Jones, I didn't want to miss you. Thank you for coming up.
Jeff Jones, I live at 792 Buena Vista Road, District 5. And, I was in the holding cell outside. So, appreciate you hearing us this evening, and I know it's late. I had some things in my mind I wanted to go through, but the safety issues have been covered, both on Buena Vista. My dock, we just heard about the cove. I'm directly across the property, the proposed property, if you approve the rezoning, which I am against. It's a very narrow cove, small distance between sides, and I just don't feel like this development is compatible with our neighborhood. We bought our property when we moved to Hot Springs. We understood this beautiful property across from us. We've enjoyed it. It's a wooded area, but we also understood it was eventually going to be developed. But we thought that with the zoning that was there, it would be property developed similar to ours, not a short-term rental property that doesn't fit that acreage. And so I guess the only other, maybe I have something a little different perspective. Just some history. That property was previously owned by a developer, Robert Molt. It went into foreclosure, and unfortunately, we had a lot of dealings with Mr. Molt at Forest Lakes Garden Homes. Ms. Garcia is aware of that. So whether it's justified or not, I kind of question the things that developers or owners do versus what they say they will do. And there were some things that went on once that property was bought. The clearing started with no silt fencing, had run off into the lake. I think on at least 2 occasions we lost power because of excavations that they got into with a power grid. There were fires from the timber that was cleared, which incorporated in the city. I don't think that was proper. I don't know that, but I don't think that's appropriate. And then there was misstatements on their report to the Planning Commission about the marina, the trailer park and things. So to me, it's not got off to a good start. And I am opposed to it. I think our neighborhood is a quiet neighborhood. This is just a development. We're all for development for the city of Hot Springs, but just not an appropriate location. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you. We have a few more people who have signed up to speak, and I'm like, there's a name off to the side here by itself. David Nash. Is there a Mr. Nash? Sign up.
Speaking for.
Maybe he's signed up for a wrong issue. And we have Mr. Aaron Burrow. Please come forward and state your name and address and district.
Yes, my name is Aaron Burrows. I'm the engineer on the project with Atoka Inc., and I'll be available to answer any other questions that you might have as well. I live at 110 Hunter Cove Court. I'm in the county. I'm outside the city limits. That's basically, I'm here to speak for the proposal and explain some of the things in the process of getting the development, and I'll try to keep that within 3 minutes. First of all, the developer, Joseph France, signed up to speak as well. He's here tonight. He wants to develop an attractive community that would be an asset to our community. It was compared to Watermill Cove, and the main thing that we're looking for is a family-oriented environment with some real nice amenities. They're prepared to spend millions of dollars in our community to develop this. That will be a great asset for all of us to be proud of. It's a unique venue. The focus is on families. Phase 1 will be a 42-unit lodge. It will be set up where that there could rent blocks of rooms, 6 rooms, 12 rooms, 18 rooms, so that a family could come in and enjoy being there as a family and enjoy the other amenities of Hot Springs. We've worked hard to meet all the requirements of the City of Hot Springs. This project, the owners did get us ahead of themselves. They started this project back in June or July. They bought this great piece of equipment. They wanted to see what they had. They jumped out there with equipment and started clearing trees on the tops of the hills. They did not disturb anything along the lake. There's still about a 200, 100, let's just say 100 feet barrier of undisturbed vegetated trees when you come into the property that's still there, still protects the lake. They did get ahead of themselves. They didn't have an excavation permit. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a stormwater permit. The city said, you need to hire an engineer. They hired me. I got involved and began to get involved and mitigate the problems that they had created for themselves. And they realized we messed up, so they stopped work altogether. It created an unsightly situation with all these trees being down, trees everywhere, undisturbed ground. But the city required stop work, so we couldn't do anything, couldn't fix the problem. And we asked, can we just go out and dress it up so it looks better? No, we don't want any equipment. So no equipment was put on site. They did put in BMPs, silt fence. They were allowed to put in silt fences, straw wattles, hay bales, and other protective environment to try BMPs to protect the lake. I'll get my phone to come up. It may have died on me here. We did try and we've met all the requirements. We met first with the city and twice in departmental reviews. We found out from the city what requirements were going to need to be met. We tried to develop what's the best way to use this property, and we came to the understanding the best way to develop it was as a planned development. It is zoned RL for lake development. We have not increased the the volume of homes. Basically, the development we're looking to do will be equivalent to 24 homes. The lodge is 42 units. That's basically 10 4-bedroom homes. We're looking at 14 4-bedroom homes. That's 24 homes. So we're looking at putting 24 homes on 8 acres of land. That's about 3 homes per acre. Ironically, Lighthouse Cove, which I watched it be developed, I'm going to run out of time. I don't know if I can get an extension on that or not.
Yeah, you just kind of make your final point.
Okay,
please.
my final point is, to be honest, I'm a little frustrated. 11 of the 12 people that are here to speak are from Lighthouse Cove. I was a builder before I was an engineer. I built a house on Paddock Point. When Lighthouse Cove was developed, they cleared the whole lot, not a single tree, cleared every single tree. They put houses in there within 65. You can't put a piece of equipment between the houses that are on Lighthouse Cove. There's 6 houses per acre on Lighthouse Cove. If anybody's created overdue traffic and cleared all the trees, there's not a tree left on that property. And there will not be a tree because the houses are right next to each other. Just a little frustrating, a little hypocritical, I guess.
Thank
if
you.
they would point fingers at our development, we would have trees and a nice development.
Thank you.
I have a little problem with that. Okay.
Thank you. What we have listed as our final speaker is Mr. Joseph France. Please come forward and restate your name and address and district, please.
Joseph France. I'm one of the owners of the proposed project. Basically, we've been working on this a long time, trying to bring something really nice to Hot Springs. And when we found this piece of land, being in property over the years, when you see a piece and you can put something on that's real special, that's what we want to do. And that's what we proposed, and that's what we came to the city and proposed our plans. And we want to spend a lot of money and make it very nice. And I think we've met all those conditions. And I know y'all have a tough decision, and I appreciate y'all's time, and I hope you'll pass the project.
Director Garcia.
Mr. France, have you done projects before?
Yes, ma'am. I've been in real estate since I was 17, building houses. Started out framing. And in the last, I'm 46 now, so probably 70-something projects over since I've been a young man. And so a lot.
So with that experience of doing so many projects, why would you get ahead of yourself, as Mr. Burrows said, and start working without permits?
We thought that the paperwork was in process to go ahead and start clearing, and we were wrong. And
But in process is different than being issued.
we thought it was filed, basically. So we got ahead of ourselves and we stopped. And then we did everything correctly the way that we were supposed to do it.
So it still has the stop work orders are in place,
Yes, ma'am.
2 different ones.
Yes, ma'am.
And in that work, was there some damage done? Someone said there was a power outage and
Somebody hit a guide wire and snapped the telephone pole, and the energy came out and fixed it.
and was there damage done at Resort Cable?
Yes.
And
Same kind of in the same day. So.
so was that taken care of?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Did they have to file suit to get it taken care of, or did you just go take care of it?
We took care of it. We wrote a $4,500 check and paid for it.
After a judgment or before?
No, ma'am, it didn't go to court. We settled it.
And do you have on any of your projects, any outstanding judgments at this time?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions of Mr. France? Oh, Director Weatherford?
He made a statement a minute ago that your paperwork was in process. You thought somebody had filed it. Who was that you had thought had filed it?
When we first started, when Aaron Burrows and I first started communicating, we let him start filling out the paperwork and doing everything as far as everything was concerned. Once we figured out that we put equipment on the ground, we started looking at the property, and we were in contact. We were already working with Aaron, and I think we just had some miscommunication along the way.
But he said you hired him after you got in trouble.
No, I think he was hired before that. But regardless of the fact, we started and we stopped, and then we fixed everything that we were supposed to fix.
You didn't stop, the city stopped you.
Yeah, stop work order. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any further questions of Mr. France? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This completes those who have signed up. Is there anybody who had intended to sign up? Yes, ma'am. You.
I lived in the neighborhood.
Well, if you're going to speak, you have to come to the podium, please. So tell us your name, your address, and your district, and then you'll have your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Joey Horton. I live at 132 San Carlos Cove. When the development was started, I lived up on top of a hill overlooking the development. It was an old fishing cabin. There was, I don't know how many cabins, and there was no tree. I mean, there was trees, but what was there was not cut down. It was a beautiful neighborhood, and that's all I wanted to say. I mean, it was not destroyed. We've made it really, really nice out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this completes all those who have signed up to speak for and against. Director Weatherford.
I have one question, and that is of Director Selman. Can she come back up?
Yes, please, Director Salmon.
I asked you on last Tuesday night at the agenda that you said the property was steep,
It is.
and I asked you what the grade of the streets are.
The streets do not exceed 10%.
But the land is 39% or 36%?
There's been contouring of the land that has occurred, and if approved, additional change to the contours will be made. The plan as reviewed by the fire department, and the fire department is where we have the requirement to limit the percentage of slope on roads. It must be limited to no more than 10%, and the roads as designed meet that.
But it's hard to believe you get a 10% road on a 39% grade, and I know you're terracing the land, but
It's an average grade of 36%. Not all of the land has that grade. With an average, you can have 0 over here and 55 over here.
Okay.
But the location of the roads and the contouring that has been done and will be done if this is approved will result in roads that meet the requirements of the fire code.
okay. Thank you.
Director Foley?
Yeah, Ms. Selman, in your opening remarks, you talked about this piece of property, if I'm recalling correctly, that this was an RL zone
It is.
right now. Under that zoning, can they do the same thing?
They can with conditional use approval from Planning Commission. I brought with me a copy of the RL zone district, and the permitted uses are residential. Conditional uses include apartment buildings, duplexes, commercial boat docks, clubs, lodges, daycare centers, churches, charitable institutions, fish hatcheries, home occupations, hotels, motels and resorts, parks and playgrounds. So those things all are possible with approval of a conditional use by Planning Commission in the RL zone district.
Thank you.
Director Salmon is on the zoning again, the RL. The planned development, is that a somewhat of a more strict?
Planned development will limit the uses to those that the applicant requests, and those which the applicant requested are residential, short-term residential, and those things that and the lodge, and those things that go along with that, such as a swimming pool, parking, the things that go along with those uses typically.
So therefore, that which is being requested, they're not able to vary that without coming back to the Planning Commission?
That's correct. This limits the uses.
So if they wanted to alter that at all, what's the process for that?
They would provide a new, usually both things, a text amendment that would permit additional uses, and that would go through the procedure that we're doing now, meeting with Planning Commission and then meeting with the board. And they would also typically provide a new site plan that would illustrate precisely where those things are to be located on the site.
Okay, thank you. Director Clark?
Director Selman, so based on this density, if these were individual privately owned condos, this would fit in the RL category and wouldn't need plan development or anything?
If you're looking at a multifamily type condominium development, it would require conditional use approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if these were 16 nice sized lake lots with 16 private homes?
No.
No. Okay.
That is permitted.
Okay.
Director Foley?
I've been out there half a dozen times and driven the whole area. And the comments that I've received via email and tonight regarding the safety on the water have not been mentioned as a consideration by the commission, at least from what I saw in the minutes. Is that because the county or Entergy manages that, or what? In terms
Entergy
of the water
manages
traffic?
the water. There, for example, are boat docks shown on the plan, that is not something that Planning Commission has the authority to approve or not approve.
Okay.
And any matter with regard to the water is not in our jurisdiction.
Okay.
Director Garcia?
Thank you. I was going to ask someone from the fire department, but I don't think anyone's here. Is there from the fire department? But they reviewed this, but I heard several people mention about one way in and one way out. How does emergency vehicles get there? Say there is an accident there at Buena Vista and the lanes are blocked. How do the emergency vehicles get back there?
That sounds like a fire department
Yeah,
question.
okay.
Yep.
I can answer that, actually. There's another way into the neighborhood behind Lowe's that gets you down. I don't think
That's
it's
not a
officially
city street.
It's not a city street, but I think if there is technically another way to get
But
into
it
the
could be
neighborhood if there's an
closed.
emergency.
No, it's not closed.
No, it's not closed, but I'm saying it's privately owned. They don't have to provide access there.
In an emergency.
Yeah, let's, if we're going to talk, we're talking from the podium, please.
About a year ago, there was an 18-wheeler that accidentally came down Buena Vista and was trying to go up through there to get to Lowe's. They had to have a wrecker pull them out. So a fire engine, I would assume, is not much shorter and maybe even wider than the 18-wheeler. And I would think a fire truck would have to have a wrecker pull it out.
Thank you.
How are the
Emergency, the back way.
Yes, please.
We had to, our plans were, and in fact, earlier, Carlton and Tom Broughton and Ed Davis were all here earlier, and they all had to review, Tom Broughton and Carlton reviewed our plans, and they had to confirm that we had adequate turnaround for all vehicles, and so we had to provide a 90-foot radius for a vehicle to turn around in there. And also another issue with the fire, that area is underserved, but it's only a 6-inch fire lane down there. It stops at 5 Points Road, and part of this development would require us to put in 450 feet of 8-inch water main, which would increase the fire flow and fire protection from about 1,100 gallons per minute to about 1,800 gallons per minute. There was a house on the property before that burned down because there wasn't adequate fire flow. And again, back to the Lighthouse Cove thing, there's not adequate fire flow to protect Lighthouse Cove. If they have a fire, it would move quickly from one building to the next, and there's not adequate water pressure. If we do this development, we will extend 450 feet further down the road to protect our development and 8-inch main throughout our development to protect the big building in the back, the lodge. And it will also probably give better protection for Lighthouse Cove too. But it's underserved. The 6-inch fire main that's in there is not big enough to service the area. They're already aware of it.
Thank you.
And one other issue that it was about the change, the turnaround. The entry, right now the entry into Wayward Winds is Wayward Winds Road. It is in an S-curve. We're going to build a new entry that's at the end of the long straight stretch. When you come down Buena Vista, there's a long straight stretch. Our new entryway will come into that long straight stretch there, so the line of sight will be a lot better there too.
Thank you. Any other discussion amongst directors?
Aaron.
Director Garcia.
Oh, sorry.
Sia.
Doesn't matter.
Director Garcia.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I had a correspondence from a lady that wasn't able to attend tonight. Had to be out of town this week. That was opposed, but I think the residents have made most of her points. But what did strike me, this area was annexed in with Area B by the board, and these residents were in favor of that because they thought they would have the protections of the city for the land usage there, and that it would be homes, as some of the people have commented about. The commercial property in that area was annexed in and grandfathered in because that was already there as county property. So the city has not approved commercial, or this is the first time this has come before the city. And I have a little concern about the project starting out with not having the permits and start working on a project of this magnitude and a person that has this type of experience, and then the engineer and owner having different stories of how, I'm a little confused about that and have some concerns. And I do recognize the concerns about a change in character in the neighborhood, and from the neighborhood's comments, that appears to be what would happen. The annexation coming in and bringing all this property, the city did add the dangerous intersection sign, but there may be other things to look at as being annexed in property to consider when we want growth and we want developments. If we don't have the infrastructure there in place to handle that growth, we should be examining also what the city should be doing or may need to at least review to further enhance the right developments and the right balance, whether it's the right water flow or if it's a turning lane. As we promote growth inside the city, there are going to be areas that do need turning lanes, whether we can add additional width to the streets. And there are other areas that are ripe for this right now as we see the developments that are occurring in those areas. And I think citywide that's something that we should look at, as well as what the people in these annexed areas were expecting. And the first time something comes up, it's actions taken that's opposite of that. So I understand that, and I usually don't want to go against the Planning Commission, but on this particular issue, I feel that I will.
Director Holliday?
Sorry, I have another question. Just to be clear, so because this is a planned development, we're not only approving the zoning change, but we're approving the site plan as presented. So
Yes, we are.
that includes this new entrance. And I know in the notes, Rick Stoddard asked for more details on traffic, more quantifiable information. And is that what was included? That was he asking for more than that statement?
The statement that is in the staff report is what was provided as their documentation.
Okay.
There was no source cited for the number that the applicant provided.
Okay, so we don't have any other outside information as to how this is going to impact traffic or be safe with sight lines or anything like that. I mean, I know staff reviews it and it's met whatever standard we find acceptable, but
It was reviewed by the city engineer and also by Public Works, and their comments were included as links in the packet, and they found the project to be compliant with the city requirements.
okay.
Director Foley? Oh, I'm
I
sorry,
looked at
Director
it a
Holliday,
little-
were you concluding?
Oh, yeah, I'm ruminating.
Are you finished?
Well, we
I'm
can
sorry.
come back to you. Director
Don't go.
Foley?
Please.
I drove the area 5 or 6 times because I was concerned about the safety issues, safety on the road. I mean, I looked at the property. I couldn't get up there because of the gate, but I do understand the concerns about the safety in the cove, which we can't manage because that's an energy decision. But I went through and I looked at all the empty lots in that whole area that were feeding into Buena Vista. It occurred to me, I don't think anybody in this room would stand up and tell all the individual owners we got enough traffic on Buena Vista, you can't develop a house on your lot. So the issue of the heavy traffic just kind of went away with that. I mean, just my consideration of that as a real problem just went away because there's enough to fill that. There were about 60 lots, empty lots that I thought could be developed. Now, I can obviously be wrong on that, but they all seem to have a utility pole or something like that there. If this is a bed and breakfast kind of thing, a lodge or a resort, come in for a weekend or even a week, the average occupancy of these things are about 50%. Now, during the racing season, they're going to be 100%. But over the year, they're about 50%. And so the impact on the traffic just seemed de minimis compared to what could be if even the lots were filled. And yet, I don't think anybody would ask the homeowner not to build on that piece of property. And I'm going to vote to support this project for that reason. I agree with the commission.
We're really into board discussion time now. We're not receiving testimony. Director Salmon, I hate to have you be a yo-yo, but come up again. And sometimes I don't like asking questions I don't know the answer to, but this is going to be one of them. Let me put it this way. Prior to the annexation, the city would have had no oversight of what was going to go on this property. And the fact that when we took them in, we had RL assigned to it, which, as you indicated earlier, would have allowed this type project to go on that property under a conditional use.
Right.
The fact that they're doing a planned development actually allows the city to have greater control over that whole site than what would have been even under the conditional use. Is that correct?
That is.
The density in that, I drove that area as well, and I know we've had tremendous growth, and I used to fish in that area, and I fished back in that area when there was very little back there. And the overview of that area shows significant density that exists today. So is that kind of a development that would have been permitted in this under our code had, say, Lighthouse Cove been developed under city planning?
Lighthouse Cove was approved by Planning Commission
Okay.
as a county project. There was no oversight of construction, of course, and with hindsight, enforcement of conditions of approval in the county was not consistent. So, somebody looked at their site plan and approved it.
Because I'm concerned with the density issue, and I see this project not having the density of some of the other areas, immediate areas that apparently the occupants feel they're going to be impacted.
Yeah, you have 8 acres, roughly, with the subject property. And if you looked at developing that at the density that Lighthouse Cove says they have of 6 units per acre, you'd be looking at 48 homes. And that very likely would have equal or greater density in terms of vehicle trips per day.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions amongst the board or discussions? We ready? Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
No.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
No.
Folly.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This completes the action items for this evening. I'm proud to thank all those who provided testimony today for the professional manner in which you did so. It's always nice to have that. Pause for a minute and before we continue.
Let them out. Let them out. Let them out.
Chris.
While they're doing that, I saw today that Pulaski County has added recycling for plastic sacks. Is that something that we could get our sacks to them? No?
You can ban them. Like we did
Our final board action or agenda item is Board of Directors items for discussion. Do the board members have any item they'd like to bring up for discussion? Director Foley.
Mayor, the troubling part to these projects
Kathy,
is...
could you wait, please?
Lance.
She's going to come in late tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
This involves her, Director, so I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure she was here.
The troubling part to these applications is that somebody with experience, a lot of experience, feels free to go in and do whatever they want until they're caught and stopped. And tripling the fees that we now have on them, the building permits, hardly seems adequate given the multi-million-dollar investment they're going to make. And so I would like to entertain a discussion about changing that, the remedy to the violation, and that is in addition to the tripling the permit fees, that we have that project stopped and put on the table at the Planning Commission for between 6 and 12 months. Every contractor who, and by the way, these violations are done by the same people constantly. They've been in business for a long time. They should know the business, and all of a sudden they didn't realize that it needed to be done. I just don't buy that. And so I think what we ought to be able to do is take that project and put it on hold for them before we will consider it at the Planning Commission.
That's certainly something the staff could look at and provide a recommendation back to the board.
Fine with that.
Be a stronger deterrent, certainly.
Pardon me?
That'd be a stronger deterrent, certainly,
Yeah.
than the fines.
I mean, if nothing else, it's going to force the contractors to work with the city and do it right off the bat.
That made this a more difficult vote for me this evening.
Pardon me?
That made this a more difficult vote for me this evening.
Yeah.
That was one of
Behavior.
the main reasons I opposed it.
Any other comments or items for discussion?
Both lines.
I just wanted to recognize one of the officers left, but we had these police officers here that's been standing for over 4 hours.
Thank you.
And we appreciate what you do for us day in and day out. And you can tell the officer that stepped outside there, but we appreciate you and thank you for your extra service here this evening.
Yeah, Miss Selma gonna have to.
Yeah, we were saying thank you for.
11.
I mean, y'all been standing here for 4 hours, or even before the meeting, you were here. So, thank you.
I always strongly object to one board member asking staff to do something, and that's why I brought it up for discussion and consideration, so the board can, by consensus, say, would staff look at this and come back with a recommendation?
I think that you have that. They have that consensus, or you have that consensus.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I try to keep that separate. When they fail like that, that may not necessarily derail the project, but I understand the concern.
Well, and I think to your point in general, one of the things that I think a lot of people had trouble with the first issue was how the project has already impacted the neighbors and how it may impact the neighbors. And if the code is literally, for stormwater, just it has to be less than the existing runoff, that still may be damaging. or if something's grandfathered in or whatever, I don't know how that process works to look at that in the code, but that may be another one to.
Well, they were also not permitted to complete the project, so.
Right.
We'll never know.
Well, but that's for that project. I mean, we're.
Our stormwater is a very, very good code, and we've got great employees that manage that. In fact, our stormwater code is what the state adopted. We actually had them before most cities, so we're very proud of.
We were the first one to have a fee.
First one to have a fee too. But look what's followed
Well, I think it's a unique situation.
As the Supreme Court finally upheld.
But the risk of,
I know, poor Kathy probably is dying over there.
at the risk of extending our meeting any further, because we may not be able to have a meeting longer than this early in the year. We might not ever reach this level. So, Director Jones, did you have any final parting comments?
Yes. Next time, if we go past 9 o'clock, I'm going to excuse myself. And remember, I said it.
So you're on overtime, eh?
Don't take.
Is it still?
Any minute. What is it, would you like to say? Make a motion.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
These have been ventriloquists. Okay, we got a motion and we got a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Oh, I know.
Good night, all.
Yes.
Hey,